I guess this is chapter 1 of my first book. I sigh as I step out of the bathroom, wearing nothing but a towel. My wet hair tickling my shoulder blades, sensitive to the cold strands brushing up against my skin. I shivered and hurried to my room. Putting on my day clothes, I guessed I had some time left in the day to not put on any pajamas. I stumbled into my living room and flopped down on the couch, letting out a sigh of relief as my muscles relaxed and my heart beat slowed to a comfortable rate. I was tired from all the hustling and bustling I did today. Running errands for myself is harder than I thought. It's a miracle how parents do it almost every day. I took a deep breath before switching on the TV. I didn't care what was on as long as it was boring. I had time to take a short nap before I did the dishes. The news switched on, and the spokesperson was telling a story about a charity event going on downtown. I smiled before closing my eyes, letting my consciousness slip into a welcomed rest. I jumped as a phone rang loudly nearby. Rudely awakening me from my peaceful, dreamless slumber, I slowly looked to my phone on the tabletop sitting next to the couch. Feeling my muscles strain as I reached for the thin black phone, then answering after seeing that it was my friend Shannon. "Yeah," I answered, sitting up. "You got a shelter to go to?" she asked. She sounded urgent. "Huh," I asked, not exactly sure what she said. "In case of a huge natural disaster or something." Yeah," I answered, glancing outside. It was already raining, not that hard though. "Oh good, that's all I wanted to know," she said, sounding relieved by "stay safe," and she hung up before I could respond. I looked at the TV as I set my phone back on the table. That was weird, I muttered to myself, noticing that the news had switched to the weather channel. Now, as you can see here, there is a heavy amount of rain and lightning in this district, heading northeast at 95 miles per hour. Also, unfortunately, there is a tornado watch currently going on. This would be the strongest storm we've ever had. Some would even call it a superstorm. And a superstorm it would be. I recommend suddenly the TV switched off, as well as the lights, symbolizing that the power went out. Dang it, I muttered. A full day running errands and now the power goes out. Just my luck. I sure hope I don't have to fix anything. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, trying to relieve my stress. I decided I should go to bed and call it a day. It was a lot later than I expected to wake. I was too tired to put on any pajamas. I admit I am that lazy, but it saves time for choosing what to wear in the morning. As soon as my head touched the pillow, my muscles felt heavy. The rainfall outside was coming down harder, but it was like it was lulling me to sleep, encouraging me to rest, and I agreed. I had a long, busy day. I came home only wanting to rest. I turned over into a comfortable position and let myself fall into another restful sleep. Oh, but little was I aware of the storm going on outside, a storm unlike any other, a storm that would change my life, a storm that would change what I knew about life. It would change me to be unusually small. Caw. I jumped awake, startled by the loud bird outside. But then, looking around, I am outside in broad daylight. What? I sluggishly stood up. Observing my surroundings even more, I saw I was lying on a big rock, on a hill. Whoa, those trees are big. Either I'm in the rainforest or in a redwood tree forest. I've heard that redwood trees are huge. But how did I get here? Did that rain turn out to be a storm? Did that storm fling me across the planet? I don't see any debris lying around. I'm just going to guess it was a tornado that kept me flying around the planet for 5 hours. My left brain is telling me it's not possible, but I'm going to go with that theory for now. I sighed. My only survival tactic was to walk in one direction. Then eventually I'll reach society. I guess I'll walk west. Many barefoot steps, later ////. Now that I think about it. This field's thicker than any other grasslands I've ever waded through. And those saplings are shaped a little lower than I'm comfortable with. It's almost like I'm not on Earth. Or the trees are growing to whatever the land is giving them, evolution and whatnot. Foreign lands, you know, like those weird trees that grow in. I stepped out from the bush-like grove, finally getting a clear view of the land. And what I found was interesting. Whoa, that is a big house. It's like an actual real-life house, but it's... My mind tried to grasp onto the logic behind the giant structure. Maybe it's a mansion. Or one of those big houses like that one show called. Tiny houses, maybe they made a new show called Giant Houses. Yeah, that would seem most likely. Maybe I should go ask someone where I am. I mean, this is the nearest house. So why not go ask them? They're just regular people living in an unusually large home. Right. I wearily stepped out from the giant forest behind me. Towards the giant house, everything you would find on a normal household was on this gargantuan building. It actually seemed like it was built by giants. But I know that giants don't exist. Right. Wow, that sentence had a lot of giant in it. I went around the front, finding an obviously giant porch. Okay, how are these people supposed to get onto their house if it's nearly impossible to get up the stairs? It didn't help my confusion that there was no door nor doorbell anywhere within reach. I just hope I wasn't breaking and entering into their house by sliding under the door. But then again, that's the very definition of breaking and entering. Please don't take me to jail. All right, that's chapter 2. A great start, I guess. And if you're eager to see giants, never fear, my friends. They will come in the next chapter. I promise I'll write time to start writing the 3rd chapter. Although I doubt anyone is reading this book. But anyways, let's go. The inside of this house is exactly like the outside. It looks like it was built for giants. That's all I can describe this place. It's just giant. From where I can see, the hardwood floor matches the tabletop dining room to my right, and the counter is stretched along the wall. Then after a couple of feet, it reaches out in a 90-degree angle to my left. But back over to the right, behind the dining table, is a sliding glass door, with a pool behind it, and then it's just lawn beyond that. I'm beginning to think I'm not in Kansas anymore. Of course, I don't live there, it's just an expression. I don't live in Kansas. Now, my mind is too small to wrap itself around the logic behind this house. It's like it's made for a giant, but giants aren't real, So what would the purpose be for this house? Is this a realistic prank? Is it special effects? Did I stumble upon a stage set for a movie? Well, a very expensive movie set then. I doubt anyone would spend this much money for a low-quality movie to have such high-quality effects. I shivered. It was getting cold. The air vent I'm standing next to would be the problem. I should probably move away then. I look around, struggling to take in just how big this place is. As I shuffle to the dining table, I see more of the inside of the house. There's a dark hallway branching off of the kitchen. That's where the carpet starts. Then I think there's stairs going down into a basement or boiler room. Fair amount of footsteps later, //. When I reached the leg of the table, I stroked the wood-like material. It felt real enough. Who would go to all this time and trouble just to make a realistic 56-foot-tall dining table? I turned my head to the sound of jingling keys coming from the front door. I was confused as to why the sound was coming from there, when suddenly the enormous door swung inward, and a giant stepped in. Half of me was expecting this, while half of me was denying that this being could ever exist. I stood there, speechless as he slipped of his shoes that breathe brand and took off his sunglasses, revealing sky-blue irises that complemented his royal blue t-shirt, with pockets in the front and buttons that could open. He looked around my age, 19. He wore tan shorts that had too many pockets on them, and his brown hair was spiked to the side, giving off a cool guy look, but the thing I noticed the most was the short socks on his feet as he stepped towards the table. His figure gradually got larger, and the detail in his skin became more visible as he pulled out a chair and sat down, completely oblivious to my existence. He opened a laptop and began to type, probably checking emails or something. But I focused on his leg. The detail in the skin was absolutely marvelous. But it seemed too good to be fake, even though I was counting on him being a special effect. I still stepped towards the giant towering figure, and I hesitantly reached out to the skin in front of me. Touching it, I mentally gasped. He was real. It felt like actual skin. Like not waxy or papier-mâché, he was real. I staggered back in fear if he was real. Then I really am tiny. I flinched as he stood up, closing his laptop and holding it under his arm. I pressed myself against the table leg. Suddenly everything was scary. This guy, this giant, could easily kill me. All it would take is one step, one hit. With little effort, I could be killed. I cowered behind the wooden leg as he walked down the hallway, my heart rate beating faster and stronger. Louder and more noticeable, anxiety grew in my gut. I suddenly became hot. As I realized my survival chances were shrunk, little to none. How would I find food? What about my hygiene? When could I go home? Why did this happen to me? Am I going to die? What am I going to do now? OMG, I am HAVING, a PANICK attack. I should just breathe, just focus on breathing. In, out, slower, deeper breathes now. Okay, I think I'm good. Let's just focus on the now. The giant is gone. And I still have a chance of not being exterminated for now. Let's just find food. Shady chapter, cloudy day. But AI promised giants and you got giants. So everyone's happy. Yes. Who wants to read more of the story? You? Well, okay, just scroll down, it's not that hard, huh? But jokes aside, I really appreciate you guys for reading my story to this far. Let me know what you guys need. If it's from spelling to grammar, I can change that. Just let me know and I'll do it. After all, I do this for both of us. Okay, bye, I'm a go-ing. It's a lot harder to survive in this house than I thought. This guy doesn't just leave food laying around. He's responsible and cleans up after himself. And the only reason I'm still alive is I've been living off of crumbs and that part of an apple I hacked off with a plastic thing. And that was 3 days ago. And now I'm out of food. But I'm scared to even be within 100 yards of that guy. But I have to go out and get some, otherwise I'll starve. 2 nights I've cried myself to sleep. But today, I will learn to survive. Intense hours later, ////. Okay, I'm sure by now that he's gone. I haven't heard his footsteps in 45 minutes. I took a deep breath and slinked out of the shadows. Listening for any disturbances I should worry about, none were present. I was already on the counter, by the spice cabinet. It took me more than enough time to be able to climb up here. I'm just lucky he has one of those house phones that need a cord. My goal for today was to sneak off with some of that banana in the fruit bowl. Easy to cut, easy to feast. Survival motto for borrowing food. I don't steal. I carefully and quietly tiptoed to the banana hanging over the side of the bowl. Stabbing the plastic shard into the skin of the banana, I found that the banana peel is harder to cut through. I cursed to myself. This was going to take longer than I thought, at my estimate, probably an hour. Frustrating amount of strikes, to a banana later, ///. I had it, oh glory, the banana core was finally mine. Even though I was sticky with banana juice, I knew I would survive, haha, oh God. But my victory bipolar moment lasted a short time. As I heard the giant open the front door, I froze. My eyes wide in terror that he would see me. Anxiety filled my gut as I heard him walk towards the counter. I couldn't see him because I was facing away from him. He was carrying plastic bags, possibly groceries. I heard the crackle of the plastic as the bags were set down nearby. My mind wasn't working. It wouldn't let me run. I could only manage to turn around and face the Titan behind me. But once I did, I swear I nearly pissed myself. You would too if you were me. He was right there. His gargantuan form towering above me, casting a faint shadow on my tiny form. Fortunately, he was on his phone. My heart rate increased, and once again, I could hear it beat loud and clear. The giant looked up from his phone. My heart lurched in my chest. His bored and tired expression turned to horrified and surprised as his eyes rested on me. And then he yelped in surprise as he fell over. He fell over. I don't even know why, he just did. Meanwhile, Ashley over here is terrified of the guy. Then he just falls. King comedy over here, am I right? Thanks again for getting this far into my first story. I appreciate you for being able to survive through my chapters. Ha. Well, time to go and write. Let's go. I blinked in confusion. He just fell over. Is he just as surprised as I am? Is he scared? I doubt it. I'm the small, insignificant being here. That could easily be crushed by him. I flinched as I saw his spiked hair slowly rise from below the counter. I backpedaled away from his rising form, only to run into a can from inside one of the plastic bags. He only stopped when his eyes were able to see what was on top of the counter. The rest of his face was hidden below. His sky-blue eyes searched the counter, my breaths becoming shaky as he spotted me again. I could see his pupils searching my small figure. Maybe he was checking to see if I was real. I could sense tears were threatening to show from my eyes. I blinked rapidly to keep them from falling. Breathing slowly, I watched as he slowly reached out with his right hand. Gently brushing my left arm with his pointer finger, he widened his eyes even more. I guess he discovered that I was real. He slowly stood up, carefully making sure not to scare me with quick movements, and he didn't. I was scared of his size. He kept his eyes on me as he did so. I stared right back at him. Neither of us spoke. The tension in the situation was fragile. The silence left the faint ringing in my ears become a little more noticeable. Normally, that would drive someone crazy, but I wasn't thinking about the sound. I was thinking about what the giant was going to do next. Was he going to kill me, make me his slave, spare me, capture me, do something sick? What will he do if I try to get away? Instead of doing any of those things, he just spoke. Asked a question, and not a question I would have expected. You like bananas? This isn't the end. I just wanted to know what you thought of that sentence, or what you thought he was going to say. Totally optional, just let me know. 3. I stayed where I was, confused, but still scared. That sentence made no sense, but I was still untrusting this guy. He glanced outside. Where did you come from? I didn't want anything to do with this guy. I didn't say anything, plus. If I wanted to speak, I couldn't. My voice was caught in my throat. I was too scared. Are you okay? He asked, tilting his head. He slowly took a step forward, expecting me to answer. I heard myself speak. No, I said involuntarily. He reeled back, almost looking satisfied with getting me to answer. But that satisfaction quickly turned into concern. What's wrong? He asked, reaching out to me. He nearly touched my shoulder, but I shied away, causing him to freeze. Are you scared of me? He asked, his expression becoming softer, but he also looked hurt. Of course, I was scared of him. Does he think I'm just pretending to terrified out of my mind? You don't have to be afraid, he said, reaching to touch my shoulder again. I shied away, but he still touched me, his giant digits up against my body. It freaked me out. I mean, I am a nice guy, I guess. He trailed off, looking to the left. I looked at his hand. It was huge, and it was touching me. A hand bigger than a car was contacting me, was touching me. A hand that could crush me was gently sea-caressing me. He was petting me. Why was he petting me? What was he planning? Was he planning to gain my trust, and then do the exact opposite of being humane? It was actually kind of content. His words jerked me out of my worried thoughts. I won't hurt you, see? I'm a friend, he said, kneeling down to put his head on the counter. Literally 9 meters away, I could try to run, and he would be able to stop me no problem. He smiled warmly, showing that he wasn't interested nor intending to harm me. I finally found my voice. I took a shaky but deep breath. I was going to purposely speak to this giant being. I was taking this a risky step further. I breathed in, opening my mouth to speak. H. How? His attention fully shifted towards me, fixing his gaze on me. I suddenly felt overwhelmed. I cleared my throat, feeling my heart thump at my rib cage. I swallowed, hopping that would get rid of my fear. It didn't. H, how are you, so by? I trailed off, still scared to say complete sentences. He frowned, trying to understand the question, Honestly, I was born like this. His words shook me like a maraca in a Mexican party. Mind the stereotypes, I'm sorry if I'm incorrect. He must have noticed my uncertainty. I mean, humans are normally this size, hun. I think you're just really small. Wait. He was human. But I'm human, I absent-mindedly said. You don't look human, in the size category, he said, shrugging. Then, where am I? You're in my house. Place to end is bad, but it's okay. Band has been draining my energy. I nearly died a couple times. But it's okay, I will live for you guys. At least I know I'm useful. I'm gonna go now and write another couple of chapters. Let's go. I know I'm in his house, but where am I, on Earth? What is this place called? And no, I mean, where am I? I said, realizing I was leaning into his hand. You're in Nashville, he said, squinting his eyes a little. Tennessee. Okay, so, for sure I'm not in Kansas. I am, I asked, raising my eyebrows. How? Yes, is there a problem? Miss. Ashley. My name is Ashley, I said, sitting down cross-legged. I'm Kyle, he said kindly, offering his hand in a handshake. I hesitantly accepted his offer. Examining his expression, I reached for his middle finger and slowly shook it. The most awkward handshake in history. He looked at his hand, frowning a little. Random paper cut, he said, bringing his hand closer to his face. Woo, looks like it needs care. I don't want this to get infected. Even though paper cuts rarely get infected, I don't want to take any chances, he said, quickly turning away. But before he did, I quickly grabbed one of his fingers on his other hand. Yes, it was next to her the whole time. Scoff it. Didn't suddenly appear. At all. He stopped, turning his head to look at me. A look of surprise was clearly shown. Did you want to come with? I felt my face get hot. I could tell I blushed. I turned my head towards the glass doors. Ye sure? I know he tried to hide it, but I could still hear an audible "awa" coming from him. He reached for me, causing me to exhale quickly. Holy Mother! He was reaching for me. I saw his giant digits get closer and closer. I remembered how powerful he was with just one finger alone. I had to close my eyes. I was absolutely terrified again. But I felt no touch. Confused, I slowly opened my eyes. He had his hand opened flat in front of me, nearly touching my legs. He had a concerned look, one brow was raised. Then I realized how ridiculous I must look. I quickly fixed myself. Looking away, as if not seeing him, made him go away. His expression changed into a small, cute smile. "Sorry," he said as I hesitantly climbed on, feeling the strange ridges in his skin along with the leathery texture. I gotta start thinking about what I look like from a bug's perspective. He finished. Wait. A bug's perspective. Did he think of me as a bug? That question never was really answered. Did he think he could just put me in a jar? Pin me to a frame on a wall? Lord help me. I was going to jump off and try to escape my captor. But it was too late. I was already too far from the edge. I whimpered as I was carried away from my safe guard. The place I had been sleeping, practically living, ever since I got here. I timidly looked back at Kyle. Oi, feels so weird to say his name. His shirt shifted as his shoulders moved with every step, both supporting the stress his body put on them, holding him up and keeping the balance even. He glanced down at me, giving a supportive look, but also making me feel small and reminded me just how powerful he is compared to me. His stomach leading up to his chest and reached out to his shoulders. All towered over me, he held me at waist length. Carefully walking to the hallway and turning into one of the rooms on the left, he flicked on the lights. A dimmed light softly illuminated the room. It was a forest green-themed bathroom. Towels neatly scattered around the shelves hidden in the room. The shower curtain was white with silver linings here and there, scattered throughout the cloth. But he stood in front of the counter. Staring at the large mirror, he was observing the fact that I was significantly smaller than him. At least, that's what I noticed. "Hey, can I set you down on the counter here?" he asked, pointing to a section of the marble countertop. "Why, yes," I said. Maybe this was my chance to hide behind something until he gives up and thinks I was all a dream. "Okay, here then," he said, laying his hand on the marble. I stepped off, sensing the platform. Behind me float away. I looked at the mirror to see his upper half vanish below the counter as he kneeled down to get something from the cupboards under the sink. As soon as I saw the last spiked hair on his head disappear below, I made a mad dash for the soap dispenser. Doing one of those cool action movie somersaults, I rolled behind it. Grunting as my body suddenly halted, I breathed heavily. I had rolled into the dispenser and I was now upside down. I softly laughed at myself and my clumsiness. But I was interrupted by a noise that sounded like a plastic bottle of some kind being set down. What? Hey, where are you? I quickly scrambled to my feet, pressing myself against the dispenser like I wanted to be a part of it. There was a pause, then a sigh. "Oh, I see. You're tricking me into thinking you trust me, and then you run away," he said with a sorrowful tone. Suddenly, I felt bad for this guy. "I thought we made progress. You trusted me, but I guess not," he sighed again. I pondered about Kyle, I mean. He never did anything to hurt me, and he wasn't aggressive. Maybe he's a simple guy trying to find out a way to put his mind into this tiny person business. Kinda like I'm trying to figure out the whole giant people situation. Maybe. Maybe we're both people trying to find their way in this world. This confusing, twisted place called Earth. Deep thoughts. I know you're still here, and I really don't want to sound like a creep here, but why? You can come to me anytime you want to talk about something or anything. In that matter. I peeked around the corner. He had his cut all fixed up with a bandage, and he was awkwardly rubbing his neck with his hand. Kinda like an anime. Hathy. He leaned against the wall. I'm sorry if I offended you in any way, scared you, or even harmed you, he said, his voice becoming shaky. His eyes searched the counter for me. Am I even talking to anyone? A silence. Were you even real? He asked, beginning to slide to the floor, his hands in his lap. Heth. Why am I crying? Oh, I know why. It's because I'm weak, corrupted, I'm going crazy, aren't I? He now sat on the floor, his knees to his chest. Say something, damn it. I'm sorry. Sorry for the language there. It adds effect and an extra edge to the blade of the feels ninja. But hey, let me know if you got something to say. I can fix it. So let's go. I felt my throat tighten, like it does when I'm about to cry. This guy was trying to survive, and he has better chances than I do. Yet we have the same problems. I felt a hot tear trickle down my cheek. I quickly wiped it away. Why was I crying? I had no reason to. I heard quiet sobbing coming from Kyle. Great, crying. He had run his fingers through his hair, ruining the spiked effect, and making it look flat. I wanted so bad to comfort him, but at my size, I couldn't even reach him, let alone get his attention. He was crying for heaven's sake. How am I supposed to help? Though. Right. Prove to him he wasn't crazy. I cautiously stepped out from behind the soap dispenser and awkwardly walked to the edge. I could hear his dying sobs the entire way there. I took a deep breath, and I got real high, and I shouted at the top of my lungs. What's going on? He looked up suddenly. I shied away from his widened eyes' expression. It was intimidating, but I stood strong as he quickly got up. He scrubbed his face with a nearby towel before looking again. He shook his head and looked to the side. I'm sorry. I'm such a mess. I've had some pent-up feelings and apparently I needed the right kick to break down the dam to the waterworks. I sat down. It's fine. I swallowed the lump in my throat. You understand. I'm sorry, I'm sorry I forgot your name again, he said, looking at me with a warm smile. It was as if the episode before had never happened. Teth, Ashley, I said, looking down into my lap. Wow, how'd he do that? It was like he forgot all about the tears a few seconds ago. Maybe he's rebuilding the hold on his feelings, boys and whatnot. Maybe I can help a little more. Punny joke is punny. Right, Ashley. Thanks. Do. I stuttered, looking up at him. Do you need a hug? Perhaps, I asked, blushing madly. He raised his eyebrows. How's that supposed to work? He asked, kneeling down to my eye level. I don't know. Improvise, I said, preparing to be squeezed or something by his hand. Hey, I wanted to help this guy. Instead, he gently scooped me up. Making me squeak in surprise, he looked at me with both of his hands supporting me, his face taking up my entire line of vision. His charming blue irises took in my every detail. He looked kinda cuter with his hair drooping and his bangs around his eyes. Ah, what am I saying? I was expecting him to cover my lower body with his other hand, in a hand hug kinda way. But no. He leaned back and held me against his chest. I could feel the body heat radiating off of his clothes and into my soul. At least, that's what it feels like to be hugged by a giant. He pressed me gently against himself. I could still breathe, but that wasn't the only good thing. His cologne was great. It would have been hard to smell from a distance, but it was amazing up close. I noticed another thing, his heartbeat. It was beating at a constant rate like a healthy heart does. But as the hug went on, it began to increase. Even I was forgetting about the sad moment before. But I could barely feel my heartbeat. It was overshadowed by his. The only thing I noticed about my heartbeat was that it was increasing too, and I knew why. I was falling for him. I love you guys. Thank you so much. 100 reads. Ah, I gave you guys so much and you returned it with more love. Ah, I'm gonna celebrate with homegrown carrots. Eats the carrots. Well, that was enjoyable. Just like my story, right? I'd. But thanks so much, you guys. As always, together. Let's-a go. Ah, I couldn't describe how much I enjoyed the hug. I'm not sure if he enjoyed the hug, but I sure did. God. I love giants. Well, at least this one. He let me go, or practically pried me off and looked at me generously. I looked back at him, noticing that he had a cute smile. Thanks, Ash. See, can I call you Ash? He asked, leaning away. Yeah, I guess, I said. Heh, like Pokemon, he said. Yay, barely, I said, looking out the door. The hallway was a tan, brown color like a branch. Heck, you know I'm always a worrying Wesley when it comes to health and comfort. So, let's get you a bed, a shower, and some food, huh? He said. That would sound nice, I said, straightening my posture. All right, hey, I'm gonna stand up now. Jay, just a warning, he said, moving his thumb closer to me. He slowly stood up, and I decided not to be rude and just stand there. I delicately held myself against his thumb, hearing a hem. Of satisfaction, I smiled to myself. What do you need first? He asked. Clothes, food, shower, a bed. He finished, listing the options with his fingers. A bed, I hesitantly said. Okay, he said, heading into another room. I'm not sure what you can sleep on. What do you prefer? I thought a moment a pillow would be nice, it would be close to his head. But he could bother me with snoring or something, deadly, rolling over and such. A towel is a waste of towels, and would be too rough. Then I remembered his shirt. How great it was to be against it. This'll sound weird, but how about a shirt? I said, looking away. He raised an eyebrow, then shrugged. Okay, that's not weird. I like shirts, too. Yeah, but what about the fact I want to sleep on it? Oh, I realized I need 2 hands for this. "Do you mind resting on my shoulder?" he asked. "I know that might sound weird, but it's the best option, I guess." I knew he was throwing the weird quote back at me. I smirked at his cleverness. Yeah, sure," I said. He smiled and brought his hand closer to his face, where I stepped off onto the place where the collarbone connects with the shoulder blade. I have no clue what it's called. But I quickly clung to his shirt collar as he adjusted to my presence near his chin. He reached into an open drawer, grabbing a new shirt. This one was plaid. A red and blue t-shirt. He laid it down neatly by his bed on a deserted dresser. "You want to try it, or do you want to get yourself cleaned up?" he asked, turning his head, but barely being able to see me out of the corner of his eye. "I think I'd like a shower. I need one," I said, moving away from his face. It's not like I didn't care that I was dirty. I did, it's just, who wants to admit that their hygiene isn't as good as it could be? Nobody. "All right, I'll just get you ready. I need to put some things in the fridge," he said quickly. "I just remembered I have groceries waiting." I said nothing as he quickly relocated into the bathroom, grabbed the usual shower soaps, and put them each into small piles next to the sink. He turned on the water, let it run, and tested the temperature. "Okay, I think it's good. I'll be right back," he said, gently pinching my sides and slowly setting me down next to the sink. "Jay, sorry about the forcing you to stand there. I recalled getting ice cream," he said, stepping into the hallway. "It's fine," I called, waving him away. I was excited about finally getting to clean myself. Then maybe that ice cream, ooh, delicious. I watched as he closed the door, I sighed. Finally getting a moment to myself, I realized it was my first moment that I was fully relaxed. Before I was worried about Kyle, now even though I'm still a little weary of him. I was more relieved than I had been in the past few days. I took the opportunity to wash my clothes too. I doubt he had any clothes in my size. Once I had scrubbed everything down and washed my clothes, then put them on. I had to wait another 15 minutes before he knocked. Then he stepped in while covering his eyes. "Are you decent?" he asked, standing in the doorway. "Yay, I'm good," I said, noting that he was a gentleman. He uncovered his eyes, then he searched for me on the counter. Once his eyes rested on me, he bit his lower lip. Your hair's kinda messy and I've got a solution to that. It just requires a toothbrush, a new one." "Okay, fire away," I said. He opened a drawer and took out a toothbrush packet. Ripping open the package, he took out the toothbrush and set it down. He got some scissors and cut the head of the toothbrush off. Then he set the head next to me. Without the use for the tooth, it's just a brush, hence the name toothbrush. But there's no tooth in there, so, he trailed off. I tried the brush. It functioned as a regular brush pretty well. I say it passed the test. "Thanks," I said, brushing my hair. It went down to the middle section of my arm muscles, and it was brown. You don't think about your hair color much during the day, do you? I didn't think so. "You're welcome," he said, offering his hand as a platform. He smiled as I finished brushing and I climbed on. I held the brush out to him. He got the message and took it, setting it down next to the tissue box. He then put his hand next to his shoulder, where I gratefully clambered on. He chuckled and headed off once I grabbed a hold of his shirt collar again. "All right, girlie, what would you like to eat?" he asked, stopping to open the fridge. There was noodles, strawberries, bread, sauce, yogurt. Usual things you would find in a fridge, but this guy had things that said he knew how to cook, my kind of guy. Anything I guess," I said. He grabbed the strawberries and took one out. He put the rest back and rinsed the single one off, after washing his hands, of course. He then cut it into neat little pieces and set them into groups on a napkin. "Okay, your healthy meal has been prepared," he said, holding his hand to his shoulder for me to step onto. I thanked him and ate my food. Meanwhile, I saw him open up his laptop and sit down at the dining table. He typed in something, then he stared at the screen. "Huh," he murmured. He looked at me, then looked back at the computer. He typed in some more things before leaning back against the chair and staring at the laptop for a longer while. I finish the last piece I can manage and walk over towards the edge of the counter. He glances at me, but he doesn't move. He's focused on whatever is on the laptop. I feel my abdomen. I hadn't felt this well-fed in 4 days. Really makes you feel for the less fortunate. They go hungry for weeks, maybe months. When I get home, I'm going to donate. God, I miss home. I miss not having to be picked up, or to be careful not to be stepped on, nor even being around giants. God, I miss home so much. I didn't even realize Kyle was standing in front of me when I looked up. But when I realized the giant man was standing at his full height, I backpedaled away so fast I'm sure even he didn't even know what I was doing. I was startled. I squeaked when he reached for me, images flashing in my mind of a giant shoe or fly swatter, coming down on my fragile body, quickly ending my life. I curled up into a ball, shivering at the thoughts I couldn't shake off. But then something lukewarm and calloused slipped under me. I wouldn't describe it as soft and warm, like others probably would. Then I felt a soft, gentle feeling on my back. I was reminded that I was with Kyle, but he was just as dangerous. He could easily kill me just as anything else in this world. "Hey, I know what you're thinking. I'll keep you safe. For as long as you stay here, I'll protect you from anything or anyone else who thinks that they can just, do anything to you," he trailed, his voice shaking every part of my body. Or maybe that was just me. "I'm gonna make sure you're safe." I relaxed. His words were really assuring. He was the first person I've trusted ever since I arrived here, wherever this place is, Earth. "Come on, I have something to show you," he said, carrying me over to the laptop. He set his hand down in front of the screen, gently sliding his hand across his palm, pushing me off and onto the laptop keyboard. I turned my head to look at the screen. It had an article about little people called borrowers. It read about sightings and pictures that people took. But the pictures looked fake, and the ones that looked real were only pictures of tiny tools, small body parts behind things, or blurs. I saw a comment down below say, I saw one the other day. It was trying to take some of my cereal, but it ran into a hole in the back of the cupboard. I wasn't sure if I was dreaming, so I looked it up and found this site, P. Another one said, are we sure they're not rats? Or is everyone on this site high? 5 other people liked that comment. Suddenly, I had a thought. Was he gonna put me on this site? I looked at him. He wasn't holding a camera or anything. He was relaxed, sitting back against the chair. Is this you? He asked. I glanced at the screen, then shook my head no. I think I came here because of a storm. He raised a brow and leaned forward to type more into the computer. He searched up a bunch of things, including storms and shrinking, until he came upon a website. It had a picture of a weather tracker and recent heavy storms in the U.S. Is this it? He asked, scrolling down. I think it's close, I said. I stood up, reading the short text below. Many people have reported missing persons from the storms. The most recent superstorm happened in a cluster of states near the northern region of the USA. There have been some people who didn't make it in time. They were hurt, but only 2 people have been reported missing or dead. 2 people? Did that mean someone else was missing too? Did they have as much luck as I did? Finding someone they can trust. I hope they made it. My muscles ached at the thought of having to thrive on my own with no one to trust, no one to depend on. Actually, I think I'm just tired in general. I'm honestly ready for bed. Oh, I won't have to sleep on the cold, hard counter in fear anymore. Score. I yawned, covering my mouth. Yawning is contagious. I heard it lessens stress. How many of you yawned at this paragraph? Are you tired, Ash? He asked, tilting his head to the left. Yeah, I'm so ready for a nice, soft, warm, comfortable place to rest. MMMHMM, I said, beginning to slump. He held out his hand, waiting for me to climb aboard. So I did, and I was comfortable. Although it was kinda weird lying on a moving being while wanting to sleep. That thought alone kept me awake. It was not too long after that I was gently set down on a plaid shirt, breathing in deeply. I grabbed some of the soft cloth and pulled it over myself, sighing as I buried my face deeper into the comfort of his shirt. Finally, a proper bed. Glad to see you're enjoying it, he said, kneeling down to my level. Yay. It's no problem, really, he said, looking to the side. Now you get some sleep, okay, Ash? Sleeping is good for people, he added playfully. I smiled. Okay, Dad, I said, crossing my arms. He returned the smile. Slow down. You haven't even taken me to dinner yet, he said, carefully holding out his hand. He laughed while brushing my hair out of my face with his pinky finger. Well, good night, Ash, he said, standing up, still a little intimidating. I turned over to avoid looking at him. Good night, Kyle, I said, closing my eyes. I heard him step out of the room as I lied there, just a small person on a desk, in a big world with a big man. Who would protect me? No matter what. Lol, Kyle's POV. Surprise. Kyle. I watched her as I quietly stepped out of the room. I could tell she was still scared of me. But why? I was nice. I didn't kill any bugs or insects for a long time. I for sure wasn't gonna hurt her. That's just wrong. But I have heard of her kind before. Borrowers. They borrow things from humans and give them back when they're done with them. But she said she was human, so what is she? I shook my head, feeling my bangs brush against my forehead. I wasn't going to overwhelm her with questions. She's confused as it is. I tiptoed over to the laptop, sitting down to browse a little more about this superstorm. It's been recorded that this kind of storm only happens every other 20 years. All over the planet, the smaller cluster of storms have been recorded to go across the surface of the U.S. and travel south into the rainforests of South America, where a supposed dying tribe of foreigners will do a ritual to keep the rains away, to avoid over-flooding and disease growth. No further research has been observed nor recorded. A ritual, supposed foreign tribe. Wait, does that mean that Oh my gosh. I widened my eyes in realization. Ashley would be tiny for the rest of her life. Oh wow. That's a problem. Ash won't be able to grow back to normal size for 20 years. I want to see what happens next. Do you? Yeah, let's a G. Oh wait, I forgot to say sorry about the week skip of updates. I will warn you guys next time. My family wanted to go on a surprise camp vacation, so. Yeah, but there's an update now, so. Yay, no killing the author, please. Whoa, 2580 words. That's more than I've ever written. You're welcome, let's a go. I observed the giant screen in front of me, scrolling all over the map that was Google World. I had found out where I live, and I wanted to go there. But I had yet to ask Kyle. I was afraid he would say no. But for the time being, he was outside. Cleaning out the pool, we were gonna have a swim. Even though I don't own a pool, I miss swimming. A short time streaming cat videos, later //. You wanna do what now? Kyle asked, kneeling down to my level. I was wondering if I could go back home. I repeated, stepping back a little, just for a while. I added shyly. He huffed, Ash. I don't know if that's he paused, looking at me. He bit his lower lip in frustration. He opened his mouth to speak, but closed it abruptly. A few moments later, he spoke. I'll think about it. He trailed, then he offered his hand to me. At least it's not a no. I thought, climbing on, to rest on his shoulder. Is that like your new favorite perch now? He asked, changing the subject. Sure, it has a great view, I said, grabbing onto his shirt as he began to move. Don't you mean a gigantic view? He joked, smiling. I rolled my eyes, oh sure. Yeah, he asked, reaching to gently poke me in the abdomen. I silently giggled, the 3-year-old part of me finding this humorous. He headed out towards the sliding glass door to the pool, closing the door behind him. He set me down near the pool as he took off his shirt. A wave of heat rushed over me as the temperature of the outside reached my tiny body. I glanced at his abs. They were toned well. But he wasn't any bodybuilder, more like a regular guy. He tossed his shirt over to the chair, then he stepped over to the pool, testing the water with his hand. I could make the water a little warmer, he said, getting up to tinker with the panel. I have a heated pool. He explained. I waited a few moments before noticing an ant crawling towards me. At first I was cool with it, but then I noticed how big it was, just as big as a rat. I stepped to the side once the ant was too close, but then it crawled up onto my leg. I screamed, feeling the grips on its feet lightly stab into my skin. I smacked it off and ran the other way. Running into something, I got knocked back. Falling on my butt, I looked back at the ant. It was crawling this way, making a chittering sound as it did. I squeaked in surprise as I was scooped up and brought to Kyle's face, his sparkling eyes searching me worriedly. "Are you okay?" he asked. Glancing down at the ant, he narrowed his eyes when he spotted it. "Yeah, I'm okay," I quickly said. "Are you crazy? I could have accidentally stepped on you," he exclaimed softly, looking back at me. "I'm sorry I got freaked out by that ant." I apologized, hanging my head. He sighed. "It's fine. I should be more careful anyway," he said, making a friendly expression. "Yeah, I'm only 1 inch maybe," I muttered to myself. "No," he said, stepping over to the pool and dipping his feet into the water as he sat down. "More like 1.5. He corrected. "So, yeah, you're a little shorter than my thumb." I hummed. "That's good to know." Have a deadline of chapters to write so. A time of pool stuff later. //. Another day has passed. I think Kyle's considering it. I hope I can go. Somewhere familiar. I hope I can go home. Kyle. I took a deep breath, staring at the ceiling. I thought about what Ashley wanted, how she misses home. I was planning to go to college soon, but now I know I can't with the tiny person living with me. I felt like a parent, worrying about someone who can't defend themselves as well as me. I have a big responsibility over a tiny person. She only has this life to live, a short one. And you know what? I'm gonna make it a great one. And take her where she wants to go. All right, so I have more chapters coming along just nicely. So it would be a steady stream of chapters this week. I love how this story is getting so popular. More than 200 reads. Thanks again, everyone. Let's go. Kyle. I was still uneasy about traveling with a tiny person, miles and miles away from home. I think she counted on me more than I thought. Poor girl. I strained not to wake my tiny room mate as I packed my stuff together, which was hard, because she has much better hearing than me, because she's tiny, and everything's louder to her. I was sure to pack food next. Then I went out and swiped my credit card, bringing back some money for the road. But when I arrived, Ashley was on the floor of the kitchen, trying to climb the telephone wire. She squeaked when I scooped her up, causing me to chuckle. "What were you trying to do?" I asked, cupping my hand for support. She curled up. "I got hungry and you weren't there, so." She trailed. "Ash, you should know not to move about the house when I'm not there. I don't want anything to happen," I said, petting her hair. She shied away. I moved her closer to my face. Maybe she was just being quiet, yeah. I feel like you're taking my independence away, B, by doing this, she said quietly. I reeled back a little, surprised that she would say such a thing. So, she scooted away from me. Please don't be mad. I frowned. She thought I would hurt her. Oh, Ashley, it's okay. You can tell me this. I can change things. I'm not gonna be mad at you. Ever, I said, brushing my finger against her face. She gazed up at me, her tiny eyes sparkling. Then she blinked and looked away. Whoa, what's with all of those bags there? She asked, mentioning the bags filled with food. I bit my lip. Those are for the trip. To your house. Really? She squealed. You said yes. I smiled, grateful that she was happy again. Yep, you deserve it. She suddenly hugged my thumb. I grinned. I succeeded in making her happy. You're welcome. Now come on, let's get you in the shower and ready to go. A couple of minutes later, //. I reviewed everything in my head as I tuned in the car. I locked all the doors, let my friends and family know I was taking a vacation. I packed all of the food and clothing I need, some money and credit, and I have little Ash here. Yep, I was ready. I pulled out of the driveway and began to drive down the street. I gotta. It's no problem. I would have done something like this soon anyway. My friends and family weren't surprised that I would do this. I said, turning onto the highway, my GPS beeping at me to turn at the next exit. No, really. Ashley's pav. I felt myself fall into a trance of watching the road, seeing the cars go by and all the little towns we pass through. It wasn't long before I fell asleep. Reasonable amount of driving later, //. I felt myself jolt awake as I heard a car door slam. I heard a loud heartbeat as I scrambled to see where I was. Hey, it's okay, I'm just going into a hotel for the night, I heard Kyle say, then I felt him put his hand on his pocket. Then right away I heard a door opening, I felt a swaying motion. Finally, I heard voices. Hi. Hello, a cheerful woman said. I'm just checking in for the night. Okay, can I see your ID and credit card, please? I felt a small jolt as I guessed he was getting his wallet. A short pause. All right, here's your room key, a free pool pass for first-timers, and your cards. I felt the swaying motion again. I was too hot. Inside this shirt pocket was really stuffy. I squirmed to be able to see. Only to be pressed into his chest again by his hand, I continued to squirm, kicking and worming around. But I was pressed harder into the soft material, making me more comfortable. I was able to breathe still, but I didn't like the idea of not being able to move. So I squirmed harder, this time punching. I felt the hand retreat and I could move again. I felt victorious. But that lasted only a few seconds as I was plucked out of his pocket, glared at by him, and gently placed into his jeans pocket. I saw for a split second that he was in an elevator with 4 other people. It could have been more that I couldn't see. He was only trying to protect my identity. I stayed as still as a stone. It was even hotter in this pocket, and even more stuffy. I was pressed against his leg by his keys. It got even worse when he started walking. I was rubbed around his pocket, creating more heat and friction. I couldn't breathe. I wished for air. But I knew I couldn't move otherwise. I would be pressed against his thigh even more so. I just held my breath, closed my eyes, and curled into a ball, so then I wouldn't have to experience this pocket hell as much. I felt his calloused fingertips brush against my tiny form as I felt his keys be picked out of the pocket, which I noticed was still. Then I squeaked as I was picked up and carried out to his hand, where I was gently caressed. I took a deep breath as I opened my eyes. Kyle was staring directly at me, his eyes filled with worry and sorrow. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked. His voice sounded worried too. He was sitting on the bed. "No," I exaggerated. I breathed in deeply as I felt my muscles relax. I was laying in his palm, surrounded by his embrace. It crossed my mind that he would protect me, and I felt my heart rate slow. Kyle, on the other hand, was as sorry as a sunflower seed at a sports convention. "Look, I'm sorry I stuffed you into my jeans pocket. There were other people in the elevator, and I didn't want anyone to get suspicious," he trailed. He slipped me off onto the giant bed, his hands crossed in his lap. What a mature guy. "Well," I began. He looked into his lap. "Let me know what the plan is next time, okay? Communication is key in any kind of relationship," I said. Walking over to his leg, I leaned against it in a cute manner. "I know you're only trying to protect me." He swallowed okay. He said, looking back at me, "I will." I nodded, feeling better about things. Mainly Kyle. He was hunched over, his posture was curved, like a teenager getting scolded. I tried to climb up onto his leg to get to his abdomen. He watched me struggle to get there. Then he chuckled and scooped me up, which made me squeak. "Why do you do that?" he asked. "Do what?" "Make that little noise when I pick you up." "Squeak, I don't know. I guess I'm just not used to it. And I'm always surprised when you do," I said, shrugging. "Well, don't get used to it, it's cute," he said, smiling at me. He set me down on the other bed. It was cold. He was warm, and I liked warm. Maybe the sheets would be warmer if I laid on them for a while. Meanwhile, Kyle was already in bed. He was knocked out by all the focused driving he had to do. He didn't even bother to change into bed clothes, if boys do that. But after a while of lying on the sheets, I realized that I don't even have a blanket, so I don't have a proper bed. I valued my options. I could go over to the edge of the bed and pull the sheets over me. But I don't think I'm strong enough, so I guess I should go tell Kyle. But getting there was hard. I had to slowly climb down, walk across the cold, hard, dusty carpet floor, climb up the bed drapes. I couldn't rest while doing that. So when I got up there, I felt extremely tired. But I was cold, which was slowing my movements. I shivered as I slowly walked over to the giant's sleeping form. I felt the goose bumps on my skin fade as I got closer to Kyle. His body heat was clearly detected, clearly so that I snuggled up against his shirt when I reached it. I instantly never wanna leave. I wrap myself in the warm embrace that is Kyle, his chest, It's not long before I glide into a soft, welcomed sleep. Ah, so fluffy. I gotta say, this is the second longest chapter I've written. So, Kyle. I stir awake, only wanting to sleep more. I turn over to sleep on the other side when I hear a small sneeze. Then I feel a small movement on my chest. It tickles me, and my first thought is a spider. So I look down at my chest to see not an insect, but Ashley wrapped up in a section of my shirt. Oh my God, I say absent-mindedly, startled by the tiny person so close to my face. I felt her jump awake. She glanced at me. She jumped up and backpedaled into my hand, which I caught her before she fell down. "God damn it, Kyle," she said angrily as she glared at me. I pursed my lips and raised my eyebrows. I was just as confused as she was. "Wah, sorry," I said, sitting up. She squeaked and fell on her back. I mentally face-palmed, sorry, I said, sitting still. She growled and got back up, brushing herself off. Wait, did she just growl at me? I think she just did. Why? I have so many reasons to be mad at you. First, you scare me half to death with your freaking giant face. Second, you shake me into oblivion while you sit up. And third, you toss me into the air trying to fix everything. She said she was steaming. I didn't know what to say. Those were not very good reasons to be mad. Sorry, is all I managed to sputter. She glared at me before turning around, not even looking at me. She didn't speak to me all morning. Ashley, I hope he's not mad. I wanted to be the angry one. Before he noticed, I was in a dangerous spot. I think I'm good at acting, actually. Back to Kyle. As soon as we were on the highway, she leaned up against my neck. But I thought she was mad at me. I don't understand girls. Driving car and stuff //. I heard a weird noise a car shouldn't make. But I've heard it before, and the problem usually fixes itself. Okay, this girl is climbing all over me. She's in my pocket, on my shoulders, my arms and legs. Gosh, I guess she's really bored. Enough so that she tickles me everywhere. This is gonna be a long drive. Ashley. I can't believe he's actually buying stuff from a gas station and letting me come with. Kyle said the plan was that I could see out of the shirt pocket because gas stations are usually deserted. But when we get to the counter, I have to go back in. So, yeah, I want Cheetos. Kyle browsed around the store, grabbing one or two things like soda or snack food. Then he grabs my Cheetos. Yes. Oh, I can't wait to nibble on those when we get back to the car, I said, excitedly jumping up. That caused Kyle to laugh, but it also caught someone's attention. Kyle, an unknown voice said. Kyle quickly pushed me down into the pocket before turning to see who said his name. Loom, do I know you? He asked. Kyle, from art class. The voice said they seemed to be a little younger than me. It was another boy. Kyle said, a little weary. He seemed to be confused of this supposed stranger that knew his name. I'm Ren. You know, WREN. I heard the guy's voice become louder. Ren, Kyle said quietly, thinking for a moment. Then I heard a snap of his fingers, which made me flinch. Oh, H. Ren Alexandrin. Yeah, Ren agreed. His voice had a hint of humor in it. I decided now that I should look, because the curiosity of what this guy looks like is killing me. I slowly climbed to the top of the shirt pocket as their conversation went on. Yeah, bro, how have you been? Ren asked. Great, just going on a road trip. You? Oh, not so well. My car broke down on the way back from a convention, so I decided to walk down here from the shop. Ren explained. Oh, bummer, dude. Yeah. Oh, hey, you don't mind driving me to my house, do you? Ren asked. I reached the top of the pocket sooner than I thought I would. I slowly peeked my head out from the cloth surrounding me. Ren was wearing a strange white hoodie with cat-like ears reaching out of the head. It looked a little loose on him, which made the black jeans look skinnier, along with the white-tipped red shoes he was wearing. This is the sweatshirt. Yeah, I guess you can imagine Ren to look like that. Sure. He looked 17, a little young to be living on his own, but he must have just graduated. Well, I guess it's okay. Let me just get one more thing, okay? You can wait by the counter if you want. I'll be quick. Okay. I saw Ren turn around and head towards the front counter to look at the knickknacks. Suddenly, Kyle walks to the back of the store. He makes sure no one is around before ducking down and looking at me. Wait, what are you doing out of your hiding place? He whispered. I wanted to see what he looked like. I explained. You know the simple rules of physics. If you can see him, he can see you, he said in a know-it-all tone. Well, then physics are wrong because I'm tiny, I countered. He paused, no comment. I laughed. Outsmarting this giant was comical. But is it okay if I drive him home? He asked, patting me on the head. Yeah, sure, I don't mind, I said, then I slinked back into the pocket. He stood back up. Then I guess he walked back over to the counter because I heard Ren's voice. All right, you ready to go? Got all of your junk food, he joked. Yeah, Kyle responded, handing the cashier some money. Some time of walking to the car later, //. I flinched as I heard the passenger side of the car door slam. I tried to climb out of the pocket to see, but I was pushed down again by Kyle. Hey, why do you keep doing that? Ren asked. Do what? Kyle said, starting the car. Push something into your pocket, Ren explained. Kyle swallowed. Well, it's because I don't want it to fall out. Okay, but I thought inanimate objects are supposed to be lifeless. But whatever's there seems to be alive. Nawa, it's not alive, it's just a random doll. I found it in the street, and I thought it looked cool. Kyle rushed, trying to make up an excuse. Okay, dude. Well, maybe I'm just seeing things take a right here. I've been seeing small movements in my house. I think I have mice, but I'm not sure. Kyle furrowed his eyebrows. Oh, gross man. Have you considered pest control? Then take another right, then a left, Yay, but it just seems to be one. And if I find it then, And one more left then, it's the green house. If I find it then, I'll most likely take care of it. Is this the place? Kyle asked. Yeah, you can just pull in. I heard the engine sputter to a halt, then I felt Kyle open the door. Step outside, close the door, and then follow Wren in the house. I tried to climb out of the pocket to see the house. It looked a little different from Kyle's home. The kitchen and the dining room were switched, sending a cozy vibe. I saw a picture of a wolf on the wall and then a picture of a fox next to it. This guy likes animals. Nye. Yeah, it's a little messy, but it's home, Wren said, turning around suddenly, making me flinch. I may have possibly in the slightest bit fallen out, because I was suddenly falling to my death. I screamed, but I was caught. But not by Kyle. I was caught by Wren. Whoa, bro, this is no doll, Wren said. I was suddenly being poked. Hey, Wren, that's Kyle tried, but he was interrupted. Dude, this is a tiny person, Wren exclaimed. Holding me up to eye level, he had a beaming smile. It was like meeting Kyle all over again. The terror, confusion, uncomfortableness of being held. It all rushed back. Wren, Kyle barked, grabbing him by his shoulders. Yes, she's a real person. Yes, she is tiny, but she has feelings, and deserves to be treated like a real person too. Wren's smile faded as he realized what he was putting me through. He looked away. I'm sorry. It's all right. Just a few words you should know. I sat up in Wren's hand, backpedaling away from him. And stopping at his curled fingers, he looked back at me and smiled. Hi, I'm Wren, he said, waving with his other hand. I flinched, but hesitantly waved back. Great, now let's get to the rest of the house, Kyle said. And believe me, it seemed like Wren was a little too acceptant that I existed. But hey, I guess that's just me. Author and dis shuck. Hi, I'm writing a book about tiny people and giants. That's totally normal. Haha, I'm leaving for camp next week, so. Yeah, good thing it's a break week then. So, let's go. The ma miss you guys. I leave Monday. The whole place is filled with daddy long legs. And I care for insects, so I'm gonna be worrying about spiders for the entire week. Lucky me. Oh yeah, but now that you know about Ashley, could we crash at your place for a little while? Kyle asked. Oh yeah, totally. I live alone 'cause I'm so mature and my birthday is in like a week. So yeah, Wren said, curling his fingers around me. I shied away from them, but he still ended up touching me. Now his fingertips were brushing up against me, like a curious cat. Hey, Ashley, do you want anything to eat? Wren asked. You look a little cute, I mean hungry. He corrected. Kyle grunted, pretending to laugh. Sure. I trailed. I suddenly looked at Kyle. Oh, hey, Kyle. Can I eat those Cheetos? I shouted excitedly. He smiled. Yeah, sure, let me just get the bag from the car, he said, leaving. When he was out the door, Wren suddenly started petting me, messing up my hair. I froze, not wanting to be disrespectful. You know, you're like a tiny goddess, Wren admitted. I widened my eyes. This guy was being a little creepy. Kyle returned with my bag of Cheetos, yes, and opened them. He set them down on the counter and gently scooped me out of Ren's hand. Setting me down next to the bag, I instantly lunged for a Cheeto. I heard Kyle laugh as I started nibbling on one of the cheesy chips, or whatever they're called. Here, Kyle let me show you the options of where you can sleep, Ren said, leading Kyle away. So I continued eating for a while, until I heard a noise coming from behind the candles. Oops. I looked in that direction. I saw what looked like a cat peeking out from the candle. I cocked my head in confusion. A cat? If that is a cat, it is a very tiny cat, because it looks to be about my size. Hey. And it could talk. I squinted my eyes, focusing on what the talking cat looked like. Actually, it looked more like a tiny girl, a tiny cat girl. Wait, what? A tiny. Is she a borrower? Like one of those tiny people that take things from humans? Am I really talking to a borrower? Come here, it's dangerous to be exposed, she waved. I hesitantly stood up and jogged towards her, still holding the Cheeto. Who are you? I asked. I eyed her cat ears. They looked so real. I couldn't believe that I was talking to a borrower. I'm Nina, she introduced, and don't you know it's dangerous to be out there where everyone can see you, especially if there's two humans in the house, she scolded. I honestly didn't know what to say. I just stood there, observing her cattish features. Get down, she yelled, grabbing my arm and pulling me behind the candle. I studied how her ears flicked one way and then the other, her eyes like a cat's, focused on the task at hand. She crouched down, sneaking behind the candle. So, yeah, those are the options. You can sleep anywhere in those places, I heard Ren say. Okay, thanks, Hey, Ash. I peered around the corner. Kyle was looking around confusedly. Ashley, where did you go? Ren helped. I began to walk around the candle, but I was grabbed back again, making me yelp. What are you doing? Are you trying to get killed? Nina whispered. Suddenly, the candle was lifted into the air, exposing me and Nina. And that cat girl could run. She bolted the other way before I could say anything. What? Ren said, before Kyle easily stopped her with his hand. I heard her whimper. WHOAH, WHOAH, WHOAH. Put her down. I shouted, pointing to the ground demandingly. The two boys instantly focused their attention on me instead of the tiny cat girl in Kyle's hand. What? But she's Ren started. I said put her down. I stated. Kyle did, but Ren took one look at her and picked her up. Oh, you are just the cutest thing, he said, petting her. She looked a little tense at first. Then she gave into the soothing sense of being petted. Owua and LT, 3 Kyle said. I sighed, you guys. Need to learn how to be gentle giants. And they are all acquaintances. Tada, favorception, welcome owl. Ima write more for y'all. But this is the last update for a week, so enjoy. Take my hand and let's-a go. Ren gently set Nina down next to me as he apologized. Sorry, lil cat. Girl, I just saw you and I. Am sorry. I interrupted. You're just sorry. Okay, Ren said, looking away. And I love Yao-woo-woo. He whispered, barely loud enough for me to make out what he said. Nina backed into me, shivering. I reassured her safety by putting my hands on her shoulders. They are okay. I said gently, they won't hurt you. They haven't hurt me. And yet, she whispered, eyeing the two giants in front of us. She put her hands on mine as like a safety net for her, a reassurance of herself. Then Kyle stepped forward, a big movement to me and Nina. I felt her fingernails dig into my hands, and I yelped in pain. Ow, Nina, those fingernails are long, I shouted, yanking my hands away. And sharp, she added, but sorry, she said. Backing away again, this time nearly falling off the edge of the counter, but instead running into Ren's hand, startling her. She yelped and dug her fingernails into his calloused palm, but it had no effect. Ren started petting Nina, calming her. He kneeled down, getting level with her eyes. We're not gonna hurt you, that's for sure. Right, Kyle? Ren asked. Definitely, Kyle answered. Now you see, that's a lot better, I said, nodding. Time of learning, to trust later //. I watched as we all sat down. It was Ren's idea to have a circle talk, to introduce ourselves. Nina wearily sat next to me, still eyeing Kyle, but seemed content with Ren. Ren decided to start, so I'm Ren. He said, putting his hand on his chest, and looked at Nina and I gently. I like to draw animals and do art. Stuff. I clapped, starting a domino effect. Everyone else but Ren clapped along. Kyle went next. I'm Kyle. He hesitated. I like to eat food and travel. We all clapped. I spoke up next. I'm Ashley, and I like to get to know people and cuddle. I admitted. Everyone perked up. I'm Nina, and I like to feel safe and tell jokes, she said. Everyone clapped. What a divided group of personalities we have, Ren said. Yeah, Kyle agreed. Well, I'm still hungry. Not to be rude, but I only had one Cheeto, and I would like more, please, I said, eyeing the bag on the counter's edge. So that reminds me, I have to order a pizza. Ren remembered. Waiting for pizza later //. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ren said, paying the pizza guy. He quietly shut the door after him and set the box down next to me on the counter. I could feel the heat and smell the cheese and spices wafting from inside the box. I leaned back a little as he opened the stadium-sized box. A heat wave and a blast of sauce scent pummeled into me. Zach held Nina as he came over to the circle of food, and she was looking at it like it was made entirely of gold, and it had her name on it. I got up and jogged towards the box as Ren lifted up a huge pizza slice, the cheese strings hanging below it. I continued watching as he bit into the corner, munching on the piece of Italian pie. I shuddered, grimacing as my mind forced me to imagine being trapped between those giant teeth. I jumped in surprise as someone poked my back, knocking myself into the cardboard. Frick. I heard Kyle chuckle. You want to share a piece of pizza with Nina? He asked, offering his hand. Sure, I accepted. Still wary of being held, I stepped on. Being carried over the sea of hot pizza, I got myself ready to eat that delicious junk food. Pizza and such later, and a hurry of chapter writing, //. Once everyone was happily fed, we all dressed into our proper bedwear and slept soundly. Nina sleeping with me and Kyle, and Ren sleeping in his own room. That was chapter 14, everyone. Sorry I didn't update yesterday, I had to babysit. And kids are crazy. Anyways, let's go jump into the next chapter. Let's go. Kyle. I stir awake, instantly remembering where I was. Although I had trouble falling asleep, I still slept well. I had chosen to sleep in the guest bedroom next to Ren's room. I glance at the table where Ashley and that cat girl are supposed to be, but they're not there. Ash, I quietly whisper, looking at the clock. I see it's 9 in the morning. Ashley, I call quietly, hearing my voice as hoarse and deep. I get out of the foreign bed and stumble out into the hallway. Catching myself on the hallway wall, I carefully walk down to the kitchen, watching every step so I don't step on anyone. When I reach the living room, I hear Ren. He was lying on the couch, watching the news. "Good morning, sleeping beauty," he said, quietly joking. I half suspected that he killed the small women, but that's just me jumping to conclusions. "Yeah, good morning," I started, carefully stepping towards him. Hey, do you know where?" I trailed, seeing 2 small people curled up peacefully on his chest. "Oh, I see them. Never mind." He glanced down at his chest. Oh, yeah. When I checked on them, they seemed a little cold without a heat source. So I decided they could hang out with me while they wake up. He explained. Okay," I said, still a little skeptical. "Hey, have you eaten yet? Why don't I make breakfast?" I asked, pointing to the kitchen. "Sure, you can make anything you want, I'm not picky." He agreed. "All right, thanks. I'll get right on that," I said, starting on all the ingredients needed. Later, //. Ashley. I feel something warm under me. As I open my eyes halfway, I see a sea of fabric stretch beyond my gaze, then the fabrics turned into jeans, then socked feet. Was I looking at an abdomen? Or whatever it's called? I turned over in confusion, looking around. My eyes set upon 2 rounded golden brown eyes, surrounded by a face. A giant face. And he smiled, highlighting his white teeth. "What the hell?" I shouted, springing up in confusion. Ren's face was too close for comfort, and I swear I saw a glint of hunger in his eye. "Oh, shoot," Ren exclaimed, quickly placing his hand over me, pressing me into the fabrics. What's the problem, Ren?" I heard Kyle ask from the kitchen. "Ashley's just freaking out, she's fine," he called nonchalantly. I squirmed in his grip. I didn't understand why he had suddenly trapped me. "Calm down," he demanded. "You are way too strong for a tiny person," he admitted. I squirmed for another moment before my entire world jerked up. "Ow," Ren shouted, sitting up. I had tumbled into his lap, upside down, but I could still manage to see that Nina was in his hand. What'd do that for? He asked, clearly annoyed. I saw you threatening her, so I bit you in defense for my friend. Nina spat. Wait, who threatened Ashley? Kyle asked, abandoning his creation of food and coming over to the couch. This giant, Amante del Gatito, was trying to squish her. Nina defended angrily. He did what? Kyle roared. That is not true. This Pedrito Wren tried to counter, but was interrupted by Kyle. I watched as the towering giants above me quarreled, waving their arms in frustration as Wren tried to explain that he didn't mean me any harm. So I just laid there in Wren's lap, listening to my friends argue as I was oblivious to everyone. The blood rushing to my head making me tired, it got harder to breathe. And I passed out. Done. Better, longer chapters will come next week. Sorry, love y'all. Let's a go. Yeah. You know this, don't you? Okay, well, I'll leave you to take care of this. I wake up with a head rush. I can't move without getting dizzy. Whoa, where am I? I open my eyes to see Nina sitting next to me, with some kind of fabric in her hands. And Nina, I ask, my voice barely a whisper. Yeah, it's me. W, what happened? Where are the boys? I asked, trying to sit up. Oh, Kyle pimp smacked Wren in the face when he noticed you were unconscious in his lap. She explained. Oh my God, is he all right? I questioned, leaning on a salt shaker. Yeah, it was funny though, but Kyle was really concerned about you. He gave Wren a suspect conference once he checked you for any scars or wounds. Then he apologized once he realized Wren was only being playful. She explained, setting down the cloth in her hands. So where did they go? I asked, looking around the room. They went to go get some ice for Wren and supplies for going on the road again. I agreed to come with, but they went a long time ago. They should be back soon. Oh, okay. What are you doing? I asked, sitting up straight. I'm making clothes for on the road. You want me to show you? She asked, handing me some cloth. I examined the texture, sure. I'd love to know how. Hey, do you think Wren is weird? I asked, looping the thread around the cloth. Define weird, she asked. Well, first day he saw me, he called me a tiny goddess. You, huh? She said, pausing to think. Well, that's because he's a furry, she explained, starting on a new piece of clothing. I raised my eyebrows. What? I asked. I had heard of furries before. Aren't they those weird people that dress like animals? A furry, he has a certain interest in anthropomorphic animals, or animals with human characteristics such as walking, talking, feelings, and just acting human. She explained further. So, doesn't that mean that he likes to? I trailed, not wanting to think about something so inappropriate, so close to a cat girl. No, she shook her head. That's a wide misconception. Most people in the community don't find a sexual drive towards animals. How do you know all of this? I looked it up on what's-his-name's phone thing, while he wasn't home. Oh, that makes sense. Nina taught me how to measure the clothes with a marked string for a better fit. Then I heard the front door open, and both Kyle and Wren came in. carrying plastic bags. "Hey, what are you guys doing with my sewing kit?" Ren asked, setting the bags down on the counter. "Making clothes," Nina simply said. "Why?" Kyle asked, setting the bags down near Ren's. "Because I don't like to wear the same clothes over and over again," she said. Makes sense," Kyle responded, leaning on the part of the counter I was sitting on. "Hey, watch it, Gigantor," I said, scooting away from him. He looked down, "Sorry, Charlie." He smiled, then he picked up one of my finished pants project and fiddled with it between his fingers. Meanwhile, Ren was unloading the contents from inside the plastic bags. Then a thought came to me. I hated being so short, having to look up all the time. My neck's driving me crazy because of the fact. "Hey, Ash, what's bothering you all of a sudden?" Kyle asked, setting the pants down next to me. "I don't like to feel short," I admitted, cutting the last string on my new shirt. "You don't," he repeated. "No, it hurts my neck to look up all the time," I said, focusing on the seams in the shirt, pulling the cloth closer to my eyes to see if I got it right. "Well, I might know a way to fix that," he said. "Yeah, how?" I asked, noticing a small loop where I messed up. "Like this." Suddenly, I was being lifted off the ground. I dropped the shirt I was working on and clung to one of the fingers carrying me, squeaking in surprise. I was lifted above Kyle's eyes and gently placed in his hair. His soft, fluffy hair. "Kyle, what the heck?" I screeched, clinging to one of the soft tufts of hair. "What?" he asked, tilting his head up to try to see me. "No, don't do that," I screamed, tightening my grip on his hair. "Move your head." I heard him laugh. Oh, okay," he said, his voice thick with humor. "I won't," he added, nodding. "No, stop moving. Nein, I struggled to hold on. I could hear Ren laughing now. What? You think this is funny?" I shouted to Ren. I could hear him gasp for air. "Yeah." NRRRR. I quickly jumped to another tuft of hair for a better grip. I saw Nina smirking as she sat there on the counter. "Nina, you betrayer," I screamed to her. She smiled. What can I say? I can't resist a tiny bit of humor. That got me to smile. Hey, at least she's in higher spirits. Ren joked, gently nudging Nina, who glared at him playfully. "Yeah, and I got ahead of the joke," Kyle punned. I was smiling madly, till a joke came to my mind too. "I'm in such hairy situation, you guys." Everyone laughed, including me. And we laughed the night away. Until we got tired, then we went to bed. I swear to goodness, I saw something run across the freakin' floor and went under the oven as I reached for bread to make toast. It was fast and small, and I don't know what it was. Can someone tell me what it was? I have no idea what it could be. I'm scared. Let's go anyways. Also check out my short stories book. It's got micro in it too. Everyone was ready and settled in the car. Nina and I were tired, so we rested while Kyle drove. Ren had brought his car from the shop and had it safely locked away in his garage. Oh, and he brought his laptop. I was lying upon Kyle's shoulder, almost asleep, when he spoke up. "Hey, dude, what's with that animal costume I saw in your closet?" Kyle asked, slowing down for a red light. "My fursuit. Oh, that's just a fursona I made up," Ren said wearily. "So that makes you a furry?" Kyle asked, his voice a little louder. "Why, yeah," Ren said nervously. Okay. I kinda expected that," Kyle admitted, pressing down the gas pedal for the green light. "Why ya did?" Ren asked, glancing down at the small hybrid curled up in his hands. "Yeah, it's not like everyone didn't see your animal drawings and doodles in the middle of class. All those original characters you named were all furry," Kyle explained. "So, okay then." "Oh no, I'm not one to judge. How do you think I first reacted when I met Lil Ashley here?" he said, gesturing to me. "I would imagine you were minding your own business when all of a sudden she was just there. And you became friends over a short amount of time. From showing no harm and kindness, there was a bond of trust," Ren guessed. Sure. If only life were a perfect storybook, then tiny people and humans would live together in every household," Kyle joked. "What are you saying?" Ren asked, confused. "I don't even know anymore, dude, if tiny people exist. Then anything could be possible," Kyle trailed. "Even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles," Ren joked. "Heh, sure, but that could just be a film theory." "Are you high?" Ren asked, turning to look at him. Kyle burst out laughing, jolting me out of my partial doze. "And no, I'm just everywhere today," he said, waving his arm dramatically. Okay," Ren trailed. "Predatory borrower," he muttered, so quietly that I could barely hear what he had said. "No, what I did when I first saw Ashley was, I tripped and fell over," Kyle admitted. Really, dude," Ren said loudly, waking Nina. "Hey, pipe it down, bed," Nina scolded. "Yeah," Kyle approved. "Sorry, Nina." Ren apologized, glancing down at the tiny Nico curled up in his hands. "What were you doing?" he then asked when you saw her. "Well, I was coming home from buying groceries, mainly pizza rolls, and then I was on my phone, looking at the latest chirp from Skyplace Blockworld. Reference Yul 3. Then I looked up and saw her. First thing that crossed my mind was //Ike. Kyle." I set down the bag I was holding on the counter. Scrolling through the recent chirps this guy has posted, I saw a small movement from the corner of my eye and looked up. And there was a tiny girl. On my counter. In my house. Right there. I wanted to take a step forward, but I couldn't find myself to. I felt my knees buckle under me as I fell to the tile. Why had I fallen? My phone had dropped, forgotten. For my attention was at what was now a tiny girl in my house. I put my hands on the counter, one at a time, and slowly pulled myself up. Was this a trick of the light? A prank? This girl had to be artificial. Had to be. As I emerged from beneath the counter, I saw that she was scared as all hell. As if I was the devil himself, and I was going to rip out her heart and play ping-pong with it. She was blinking quickly, as if something was wrong with her eyes. I slowly reached out to her, making sure not to scare the tiny girl. I gently brushed her arm with my fingertip. I breathed out in realization this girl, whatever she was real. I slowly stood up, my knees were beginning to feel sore. Now, sure, I could have said something like, "Are you okay?" Or "Are you real?" Or even "I'm not going to hurt you." But I wanted my first words that I said to a tiny person, real or not. I wanted them to be remembered. Then I noticed the small shard of plastic and what was left of some of my banana. And then it just came to me. "You like bananas." Lol. Back in the car, //. So the first words you said to her was, "You like bananas." Ren repeated. "Yeah," Kyle said, embarrassed. Well, what were you thinking?" he asked, changing the subject. "I just thought she was cool," Ren admitted. Looks like we're going to run into some weather," Kyle said, changing the subject furthermore. I changed my attention to the rain clouds ahead. The highway was deserted, so it was clear that the rain clouds were in our way. So it was inevitable that we were going to encounter them. But it wasn't long before it started to rain softly, the slight pitter-patter of rain bouncing off of the car's roof. And it sounded great, soothing my mind into the point where it seemed as if the rain was lulling me to sleep. So now, NGT 3. Imuahata. I woke up. It seemed as though my muscles ached. I was dizzy, but I was still as small as an insect. I could hear the rain pouring outside the car. I tried to sit up, but I felt someone lying next to me. I glanced down, expecting to see Nina, but it wasn't her. It was Kyle, the same size as me. "Kyle," I shouted, shaking his unconscious body. I looked around worriedly. We were lying on the driver's seat of the car. Ren and Nina nowhere to be found. "Wah," he stirred, blinking rapidly. "Kyle," I said. Trying to sit him up, I could tell he was weaker. "Ash," he asked, struggling to open his eyes. "Why are you so loud? What happened? Where am I?" he asked, his mouth running a mile a minute. "Kyle," is all I could say. He opened his eyes, smiling. "Ashley, you're normal again." "Kyle," I said, then someone opened the car door, a stranger. I tried to drag Kyle away, afraid what this giant man would do. He looked around the car madly. Then Kyle screamed, catching the attention of the stranger. He grinned down at us, grabbing us in his strong hands. "I'm sorry, Ashley," Kyle said. "I said I would protect you, but I failed." The man put us in a cage. I found more specimen. He said into an earpiece. "Yes. Okay, 34 and 26 are locked and loaded. They should arrive within the hour." Were we being whisked away to a lab? I could only imagine how horribly we would be treated. Forever imprisoned. Forever alone. Never to see the light of day again. What a waste of life. What a terrible fate. And I started awake, breathing in cold air. Was it all a dream? No. I had been tossed into a cell. I would be experiment. Suddenly, a portal appears //. At cease the cat girl steps through. Yahum. Guess what? I can just do that. But, here, wait 12 hours and see if your wish comes true. Do guys want more? Do you? Also go to my account and check on the conversations box. I got a question for you guys there too. I start awake, jolting myself off of Kyle's shoulder and sending me tumbling down his chest. I yelp in surprise as I'm caught by a hand. Watch yourself, little girl, Ren said, smiling. Are you okay? Kyle asked, glancing at me. Yeah, I said, that must have been a dream. I thought it was the end of me. I looked around. We were still in the car, Ren in the passenger's seat and Kyle in the driver's. Nina was curled up in Ren's lap, still sleeping soundly. And the rain outside was trickling down the windows. It looked like we were caught in traffic as there were cars surrounding us. Hey, Ash, do you mind if you rest on my shoulder? He asked. Sure, I said, crawling off of his hand onto his shoulder. He slid me into his neck, gently pressing me into it. I could smell the strong scent of cologne, easing my nerves. Aw, come on, man, always stealing my girl, Kyle joked. Yeah, well, that's because I'm the cat whisperer. The news flash, bud, Ashley's not part cat, Kyle corrected. That's not what I mean. I could feel the vibrations of Ren's neck as he spoke. It was bothering me, so I did something that would make me uncomfortable, but it would be worth it. I stood up, almost losing my balance. I grabbed onto some of Ren's short hair, pulling myself upwards. WH, what are you doing, Ashley? Ren asked, making sure to keep his head still. Exploring, I said, concentrating on getting to my goal. He paused, explore away. I continued to climb until I couldn't find anything to get a good grip onto. So I made my way down to find a better route. Suddenly, I found myself falling. I squeaked in surprise as I landed on Ren's shirt collar. I clung to it, attempting to not fall into his shirt. Ashley, what are you doing? That tickles, he said, reaching for me. I playfully dodged his hand, but in doing so I let go. Tumbling down the inside of his shirt, I squeaked loudly. I felt the heat of his body wafting from his skin, trapping the heat in, along with me. Kyle, I shouted, beginning to squirm. Ahaha, stop esquea. Ashley sto pfft naihaha. Ren laughed, twisting his body to grab me. I curled into a ball as I was lifted from under a tent of cloth and skin. Ren dragged me out by my leg. I unfurled and dangled from his powerful fingers, his face upside down. He tilted his head to the side to match my head's position. Hey, he said, smiling. His eyes were sparkling from the droplets on the window. Making his eyes look rounder, he looked kinda cute. So now, was I falling for him too? I shook my head. I can't be. He seemed a little weird at first, but now. He carefully set me down in his hair. Is this where you were trying to get to? He asked. Yeah, thanks, bro man, I said, clinging to one of the tufts of hair I was sitting on. I heard Ren chuckle. I noticed a kid in the car next to ours. He was staring at me in bewilderment. I smiled and waved at him, which made the child widen his eyes further, like they were bugging out of his skull. Then he turned to his sister, who was clearly older by many years, and tried to get her attention, but she was too busy texting. And I could tell today was going to be a day unlike any other. Out of traffic and on the suburban roads now, //. I recognized the streets as we drive on. I grew excited to see what my house looked like from a smaller perspective. It's the blue one, I told Kyle. We pulled up in front of my house. It didn't look wrecked or anything. Wren jogged up to the front door and knocked politely, just in case my mother was there to check on me. But whoever opened the door? No. It's not possible. I was the one at the front door. It was me who greeted Wren with a smile on my face. But I'm right here. How could I? I couldn't breathe. I couldn't find any words. I can't breathe. I passed out. It's not the end. I just wanted to see how much everyone cared about my story. And for that, I see more people care than what I thought. So, I've decided to let another character join the book, but only for one chapter. Only one slot of room, you guys. It has to be a borrower, or at least someone who knows about them and won't kill them like they are vermin. Let's see who joins. Let's go. Ashley. Hey, Ashley, are you okay? Dude, that was Ashley. How is that possible? Wren's voice rang. I don't know, Ashley. Are you okay? Kyle repeated. She's in shock. Get away, give her some space. Nina's voice interrupted. Sorry, Kyle said, his voice wavering. I slowly opened my eyes, instantly seeing Nina's catty ears. Kyle and Wren's face hovering above me. I was lying on the part between the driver's seat and the passenger's seat. Ashley, are you okay? Wren asked. Why, yeah, I'm fine, I said, hearing my voice as raspy. Then my giant doppelganger scene panned in my head like a steel drum, and I turned to hug Nina for support. She patted my back. It's all right, she said, reassuring me. Then Kyle slowly reached for me. Nina let me go, and I slid into his hand. He held me to his chest as I quivered. Ashley, it's okay. It's okay, he repeated, caressing me. How? I asked, barely rasping a whisper. I don't know, Kyle answered, beginning to gently caress my back. I burrowed myself into his chest, wrapping myself so deep into the cloth, I'm sure I could suspend myself. I could hear his heartbeat, thumping strongly at a rapid pace, signaling that he was worried for me. My head was already spinning. I didn't want to stay awake, so I forced myself to sleep to get away from all of this madness. Yeah, she fell asleep, so. Wren's pav. Is she all right? I asked, peering into Kyle's shirt. She wrapped herself up good. I don't think she's coming out. Just give her some time. She'll heal, Nina said, gazing up at me. Well, what should we do now? I asked, leaning back into the seat. Well, Kyle started. I did read up on this website where, there's this thing in Brazil, a tribe, and they do a ritual. I opened up my laptop, smiling at my fox background. A 3. What was the website called? I asked, opening up a new page. Weather Whiz, or something, he said in deep thought. I typed in the name of the website. I was met with a page full of weather trackers and paragraphs explaining the weird events. I read the most recent update. Whoa, dude. I called Kyle's attention. It says here that the storm barely missed this neighborhood. Like, it was really close to hitting Ashley's house. Wait, really? You mean it didn't trickle on her house or anything? He asked, leaning to see the screen. Yeah, an inch closer, and the storm would have rained on her house. I confirmed. He leaned in closer to get a good view, leaning against the armrest thing. Hey, I'm here, you kilo torp. Nina shouted at him, making him snap back apologetically. You nearly crushed me, she added. Sorry, Kyle said, I'm still caught up on what to do. He admitted. Should we go to Brazil? I asked. I had the money, and it would be a great place to find new fursuit colors. Plus, I wanted to help Ashley. I mean, if it would help her. Kyle trailed. We could ask one of the tribes, I suggested. Although, how would we gain access to the land? Yeah, they seem to know some sort of ritual after all, he admitted. So should we go to Brazil? I asked, wishing to confirm the trip. I will, but is it okay with Nina? He asked, looking at her. I will. I'm going to teach her how to be a borrower, she said proudly. All right then, I guess we're all going to Brazil. For Ashley, Kyle said, starting up the car. For Ashley, I echoed. For Ashley, Nina confirmed. And as we drove, I told Kyle the directions to the nearest airport. Because we were doing this. For Ashley. How many of you like Ren? You. Well, fun fact about furries, they like to draw, artsy stuff. Sketching, doodles, drawing, you know. So check out my art book. Ren might draw something for us. So let's go. Ashley. I start awake. I instantly feel energized. Ready to pounce, to run for my life, to get out of this blanket. I'm wrapped in a blanket, unable to move. So I start squirming, and the fabrics around me surprisingly come undone easily. And I see my surroundings. I'm in a hotel. Hey, Nina's voice rang from the floor. I looked around, getting a good sense of where I was. I crawled to the edge of the shirt I was laying on and saw Nina preparing to throw a hook line onto a table. What are you doing? I asked, looking around. I noticed the boys weren't in the room. Trying to get some food, she said, flinging the hook up onto the table. It stuck into the wood. Oh, and in case you were wondering, the guys went down to the pool. They said they would wait for their flight they just booked for tomorrow. Okay, how are you going to get food? I asked, sliding down the bed drapes, landing on the floor with a light poff. I walked over to her. There's nothing there. Well, other than the guys' stuff, which they didn't have the food with them, it was probably still in the car. Now, it seems like there's nothing there, but actually a borrower before us left a hidden pathway. She explained, beginning to shimmy up the rope. Really? I asked, grabbing a hold of the rope and climbing up along with her. Yeah, it's hidden really well. Humans wouldn't think twice about a regular table bolted to the floor, but a borrower. She quickly reached the top, out of repetition and survival. Would know where to look. I, on the other hand, reached the top after several minutes of trying not to fall and break all of my bones. When I finally made it to the top, she beckoned me to the wall, where there was a small sliver of an opening behind the corner. I silently followed, ducking into the small space. Nina followed, patching up the hole. Then it was dark, I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black. Now we are inside the walls. It's easy to maneuver your way around and reach the kitchen, she said, gently pushing me forward. Just follow the path, it's a hallway straight to a feast, she added. How do you know this? I asked, maybe it's a trap or something. No, it's a safe way to survival. Us borrowers gotta look out for each other, she said. Okay, if you're sure, I said, carefully stepping forward, my arms extended out on case I run into a wall. I made my way down the dark hallway. Many twists, narrow holes, and meandering plummets later backslash. Light, there was light. Ah, finally I think we made it to the other side. What does it look like? Nina asked. I emerged from the small space, but only got a glimpse before I was yanked back. Be careful. There could be humans, and humans are extremely dangerous to borrowers, she reminded. Well, I'm sorry. I guess I'm just Miss Awkward today, I said, brushing myself off in mock defense. I stepped out. I didn't see anyone, but we were by a counter. All we had to do was climb up and gather some edible things. Then I heard footsteps. I froze in place as I saw a cook walk by. He was in his mid-30s, a little scruff of a beard on his chin. From the look on his face as he trudged by, it seemed like he was having a bad day. I used the fancy carvings in the wood to easily climb up counter. I glanced around before ripping a giant piece off of the nearest bread loaf, making sure Grumpy Cook wasn't nearby. The climb back down was just as easy, but when you reached the bottom, I saw Nina had found a match. Nice find, she said, going over to me to strap on the match to my back. Thanks, is this enough for both of us? I asked, walking towards the hole. Definitely. The borrower before us picked a great place to make that tunnel, she admitted. After a couple of minutes of walking through darkness, I considered asking if we could use that match Nina found, when suddenly... Wait, Nina said, suddenly grabbing my shoulder. What? I asked, straining my arms not to drop anything. She pushed herself in front of me. I hear something in the walls. It could just be a spider or... Spider, I shouted, clinging to Nina. Where? Those spiders would be big enough for me to ride. But I don't think anyone would want to get up close and personal with a spider. Shush, Nina demanded. You have to be quiet if you don't want. Annie. She trailed, seeming to fall off topic or lose track of thought. In trouble, I finished for her. Yeah, she whispered, pressing against me. She was shaking like a leaf caught in a tornado. Are you okay? I asked. Then I remembered to whisper, is there any spiders? And no. Ashley slowly handed me the match. I did as she told and handed her the match, then with a loud fished. The hallway illuminated with light, and standing there, right in front of us, was a mouse. And it's not like any small, adorable mouse. It was monstrous, like it was as big as a moose. A fat, plump, strong, fast moose. And it was blocking our path to safety. I was about to scream, but before anything came out, a hand clamped over my mouth. "Do not make a sound," Nina threatened. I nodded, closing my lips and swallowing. I breathed in several shaky breaths as Nina slinked forward towards the mouse. Its nose twitched in curiosity, and it turned its head at Nina and I. Then Nina started hissing at it, which then the mouse stepped back. I guess it thought Nina was a full-grown cat. Nina yowled and lunged at the mouse, striking its nose. The mouse squeaked in terror and darted backwards. Nina pressed on and grabbed onto its fur, dropping the match on the floor of the hallway. Then she bit the mouse, something I never thought she would do. But it seemed to work, as she let go of its fur, and stood in glory as she watched the silhouette of the rodent scurry away. She turned around and picked up the match. "Now, let's get going before we run into anything else dangerous." That mouse was just a baby, and it didn't know how to fight, so we were lucky. "Wait, that behemoth was just a little one?" I asked, rushing to her. "Yeah, its mother might be nearby. And even though biting and scratching could do a lot, especially biting, it won't do much for bigger things like dogs or humans," she confirmed, picking up the pace. "Oh," I said, rushing to keep up with the Nico. Soon we reached the crack that we entered through. Nina put out the match and helped me crawl out through the sliver of space. In the hotel room, Kyle and Ren were there, both in their suits, frantically searching the room, not seeming to notice us standing on the table. "Nina, Ashley, are you alive?" Kyle asked, checking in the drawers. "Dude, do you think one of the maids took them?" Ren asked, gently opening up the sheets of the beds. "I don't even want to think about other people handling them. They could be heartless bastards," Kyle said, pausing a moment, only to shake his head and begin to look under the beds. I set the food down, guys. I shouted, but they didn't seem to hear me. I sighed and took the rope to the floor, jogging to the middle of the floor. I was about to call Kyle's name, but I almost got stepped on by Ren's bare foot. Instead, only my shirt was caught under his heel. I tugged at the cloth, but it was no use. "Ren," I shouted. Suddenly all the commotion stopped. "Dude, stop. Did you hear Ashley just now?" Ren asked, still oblivious to the tiny person stuck under his heel. "Yeah, where do you think she could be?" Kyle asked, searching the floor. "I don't know, but I thought I heard her voice in this direction," Ren said, beginning to spin around on his heel. I closed my eyes in horror. He was about to step on me when... "Ren, no." I heard a deafening thud. I felt nothing. No painful pressure, no crushing weight. Nothing. I opened my eyes to see that Kyle had dived in and created a protective shell around me using his body. On his hands and knees, his chest hovered above me. Ren was clearly pissed. "Damn it, Kyle, why did you push me?" Ren trailed, suddenly noticing me. Dude, you nearly stepped on her. Kyle glowered, fuming with anger. Ren had a look of horror on his face when he realized what he almost did. Oh my God, is she all right? He asked, taking a hesitant step forward. Don't come near her. Kyle growled, gently scooping me up and holding me against his bare chest, the warmth radiating off of his moist skin. Dude, I'm so sorry, I. Get away, Kyle said through clenched teeth. I didn't mean to man, I said get, Kyle said, raising his fist. Ren scrambled away, locking himself in the hotel room's bathroom. Kyle stared at the door for 10 more seconds before looking at me. His angry expression softened into worry. Are you all right? He asked, checking my arms and legs for any wounds. Why, yeah, I said, my face feeling hot. His expression turned to relief. Oh, good, I thought I'd loose you. He said, holding me against his cheek. I breathed in sharply, feeling a sense of lust. I'm fine, don't worry about me, I said, hugging his cheek. I brushed my lips against his soft skin, feeling the little details that were on his face. Then he did something bold. He turned his head and kissed me on the forehead. I don't ever want to loose you, he said, holding me against his chest again. I know, I said, letting myself succumb to his embrace. But something in the back of my head panged at Ren. But you need to go apologize to Ren. He didn't know I was there, and it was just an accident. But I would really appreciate it if you were able to forgive and forget, I said, running my hand along his muscle. He didn't mean it. Just like how you didn't mean to shove me into your pocket the other day, you were trying to help, just like he was. Ren, Kyle called. The door opened slowly, and Ren carefully peeked out from behind the wall. Come here, Kyle said softly. Ren cautiously stepped over to Kyle, Nina in his hand. Why? Yes. He put a hand on his shoulder. It's okay. It was an accident. I forgive you. Really? Ren asked, surprised. Yeah, I'm sorry for pushing you over like that. No, you had to do it to save Ashley. I'm sorry for not being more careful. It's all right, bro, Kyle said, quickly hugging Ren. Now we should probably get some clothes on. Opinions. Ships. Comments. PLZ comment. I'm getting lonely. Also, check out my other books. They also have micro-macro in them, please. You will like them too. Kay, let's go. I ducked down into Kyle's shirt pocket as he stepped through the door into the airport. Here was the plan. 1. They would enter through the entrance to the airport. 2. Get checked in. 3. The Tinies would somehow find their way past the metal detectors. 4. Meet up on the other side. 5. Continue on their merry way. Hello, we have tickets for Brazil, Kyle said, stopping at a counter. The man sitting at the counter looked up from his computer. Okay, just let me see them. All right, are you the Smallins? Yes, Kyle said, reaching into his jeans pocket for his ID. I didn't listen to their conversation. I was prepping myself to be on my own again. Kyle was the only person I completely trusted, and I would be without him. I was jolted out of my thoughts as I was plucked out of Kyle's shirt pocket. I thought of a way to let you sneak past, he said, kneeling down. I noticed that we were in an empty men's restroom. I averted my eyes from any of the stalls, even though there was no one there. Is it all right with you if I put you on my shoe? He asked quickly, checking the door in case anyone comes in. Put me in his shoe, like with his foot. Doubly, what do you mean? I asked, fearing for my safety. I mean, you could ride my shoe. Like, hold on to the laces while I walk, and then get off and run past the detectors, then hop back on when I'm on the other side. He explained. I released the breath in my chest. Oh, you're okay, I said. He smiled good. Glad you agree. I'll pretend like I'm tying my shoe and you can hop into my sleeve. Okay. Any questions? So I would be on his shoe, get off and run to the other side, get on. And then when he pretends to tie his shoe, I climb into his sleeve. No, I got it, I said. He kissed my forehead. Awesome, good luck. I took a deep breath as I was lowered to his shoe. He stood up, letting the pant leg fall around me. I held on tight as I wrapped myself in the clean shoelaces. Looking at my surroundings, I glanced around as Kyle stood there for a moment. When I glanced up, I realized I could see his boxers. And I could feel my face flush with red. I wouldn't look there ever again. But once he started walking, it could make one extremely sick, or let them have the ride of their life. I was kinda both. It was a pattern of stop, go, like stopping abruptly, then going a mile, etc. It made me want to puke and shout at the top of my lungs. But then that would give me away, so I didn't. Hey, Kyle, you all set? Yeah, you. It's all clear. But the plan wasn't all that hard. It was pretty easy. Even though I was alone, I still had Nina. I did as the plan said. I hopped off as soon as we got to security. I dodged soul-crushing shoes, and I waited for Kyle on the other side. But someone was a very observant child. Wow, what is that? A hand reached for me out of the blue. I screamed, but I was tackled out of the way by Nina. Come with me. Wait, that wasn't Nina. I looked at my savior. It was actually an older teen, with blonde hair and wings. She was also a Nico. I didn't know there were so many kinds of borrowers. Wait, I called, who are you? I'm Sky, she said, turning around to hold out her hand. I took it and shook it, pleased to meet you. The hand swiped at us again. Is there a bird under there? We better go, she said, oh, and pleased to meet you too. We ran to an abandoned bag where Nina was waiting. You got her too. Good, Nina said, holding out her hand for a high five. Yeah, Sky exclaimed, returning the high five. You two know each other, I asked, pointing at the Nikos. Nina spoke up, well, Ren had the same plan as Kyle, so. Yeah, I met her, she gestured to Skyanne. She had food, so I decided I would follow her. Timothy, don't you know not to go snooping around other people's stuff? But Ma, I saw a bird. I don't care what you saw. Respect others' stuff. Oh, sorry. Sky peeked out from behind the bag. I think the coast is clear." "Is it?" Nina asked. I peeked out from the bag, behind Sky. Kyle was just putting on his shoes, because security tells everyone to take them off. "Nina, that's my queh. We have to go now," I realize as Ren walks up to Kyle and whispers in his ear. "Wait that fast?" she asked, darting out from behind the bag. "What is going on?" Sky asks, confused. "If it's your queh, then go." Nina pushed. I stumbled out into the open. Making me bump into a heel, I heard a startled squeak from above and looked up to see it was a blonde-haired teenaged girl, around my age. But I did not want to linger and get myself caught. I bolted towards Kyle. He must have seen me coming because he practically had to catch me. I think he had to catch Nina, too. And then suddenly Sky is here. "What the heck are you guys doing?" she asked, joining me and Nina in Kyle's sleeve. I'm not sure she realized where she was. "Going to Brazil to get Ashley up to speed with how big the human race is," Nina said. A bit of loose sarcasm was hinted. "Well, I don't know how running towards Ak," she squeaked, pressing herself against the cloth. "Did you just realize where you were?" I asked, gripping Kyle's wrist to prevent from falling out. "Yes," she squeaked, her wings folding stressfully. Then we heard a giant voice. "I got Nina and Ashley, it's okay," Kyle said. "Are you sure?" Ren's voice rang. "Yes, let's just go somewhere and make sure they are all right. I can feel them squirming," Kyle admitted. Then it was silence for a couple of moments, before Kyle's hand reached into the sleeve and gently pulled all three of us out. "You guys are fast. Like I think you ran faster than Usain Bolt," he began, but then noticed the terrified winged Nico in his palm. "W, who's that?" "Sky, she saved us from people," Nina yelled. "She saved you?" he asked, curving his finger over me. "Yes, and we are very thankful," I admitted. "Well, then I have to." "Who's that?" Ren asked, coming over. "She's Sky, and she saved Ashley and Nina from a person," Kyle summed up. "Cute. She's got wings," Ren fanboyed. Sky seemed flattered as she blushed. "Though we have to hurry. Our flight is going to depart soon," Ren added, tapping his wrist. "Oh, you guys are leaving right now?" Sky asked. "Yeah," I trailed. "Though I can't come with you if that's what you're thinking. I have a system and a pretty awesome friend. WTH am I doing with my life?" she explained. "I have to go help other borrowers." "Oh," Ren said, disappointed. "Will you wait for us when we come back?" "I'll try," she said. Ren looked at the time. We got 2 minutes. Instead of a handshake, me and Nina got a hug. "You're welcome," she said, then she turned and leaped off of Kyle's hand, gliding into a shadowy crevice in the wall. The next few moments went quick. Me and Nina joined our giants. I went into Kyle's shirt pocket, and then we were off. I felt the familiar swaying of Kyle's body, but much quicker, because we were in a hurry. Then suddenly we stopped. "Is this Flight 102 to Brazil?" Kyle asked. "Yes, but I'm afraid something's come up," a woman's voice said. "What is it? Did we miss the flight?" No. "I'm sorry, our computers aren't working. "Your flight will be delayed," the woman said. "For how long?" Kyle asked. "8 hours." "So, okay." "Yeah, I'm sorry. You're going to have to stay overnight if you still want to catch your flight." Our flight was delayed for 8 hours. We have to stay overnight. What has become of my life? Hey guys, who knows the Easter egg in the title? I'll give you a hint, pilots. The next morning, we got into the flight. Staying overnight wasn't as big a deal as we thought it would be. Not many people think it's a good idea to sleep next to two guys. I wonder why. Anyways, I rode in Kyle's shirt pocket as always, as we boarded the plane. I think Nina and Ren were gonna be in a different section of the plane, because those were the only seats one could get. Kyle walked with only one carry-on, which was his clothes bag. It had clothes in it and a book. I forget which one, but it looked pretty cool. He sat down in his seat, making sure not to disturb the tiny person in his pocket. He checked on me a couple times before a really chubby guy sat down beside him, breathing heavily. I could already tell that this flight isn't going to be the best one. A couple minutes after the flight took off, I asked Kyle if I could read a book, but he wanted to sleep, so I guess whatever Kyle's going to do, I'm going to do that too. But at least he had the politeness to let me try to read in his bag. It didn't work out so well, as he looked suspicious, and the guy sitting next to him looked over a couple times. So I tried to read, but I couldn't turn the pages. I didn't want to ask Kyle because he was sleeping and I didn't want to disturb him, so I settled myself into a shirt and I fell asleep. Time later, //. I woke up to Kyle, stepping past the chubby guy to get to the aisle. The guy was eyeing Kyle's bag like it contained gold. He was eyeing me. I looked on in horror as he looked around to see if anyone was watching. Then, when Kyle left his line of vision, he reached out to me and snatched me from Kyle's bag. "Hey, that isn't yours," I heard a female voice say. I aw through a crack in the guy's fingers that it was a girl. She had blonde hair and blue eyes. She had her hair down, and I could see that she had long eyelashes. "It's none of your business," the guy snapped. "Well, it could be the courts," she said, looking around for a flight assistant. I could feel the guy's palms get sweaty. Maybe this was mine, and this person took it from me first. "You don't even know the person's gender," she said. "Look, if you don't cause any trouble, then I'll give you something you can't refuse," he said, tightening his grip around me. "Nua, Emma don't work like that. Yes, hello. Could you come here, please?" She called to a flight attendant. "Yes, may I help you?" the attendant asked Emma. "Yes, this." "Thank goodness you're here," the guy suddenly interrupted. The flight attendant turned to him. "This young lady here was bothering me, telling me I have her stuff, even though I never crossed paths with her before." "Is this true, ma'am?" the attendant asked Emma. "Sure, we've never crossed paths before." "Aha, so she admits it. Could you help me?" the guy asked, looking at the attendant innocently. Would you like to be transferred to another seat, sir?" the attendant asked. "Gladly," the chubby guy said, getting up. I saw Kyle returning just as I was carried off into another part of the plane. Kyle. I saw a guy walk off with one of the flight attendants just as I returned from the bathroom. I sat down in my seat and began to look for Ashley, but she wasn't there. I began to look frantically for her in my bag, flipping over things just in case she was under them. Then I felt a light tap on my shoulder. I turned to see a woman, rather a teen around Wren's age. "Hi, I'm Emma. Are you looking for something in your bag?" She asked. Maybe she had Ashley. Yes. Do you have it?" I asked, my eyes darting to places Ashley could be. "No, but the guy sitting next to you took something from your bag." I widened my eyes in horror. I could have sworn that guy that walked by. "Whoa, are you okay? You look like someone stole your child," she said. "Do you know where he went?" I asked, trying not to flinch at the images my mind created. "Yeah, he moved to 3rd class down there," she said softly, pointing down the aisle. "T. Emma, and you are?" she asked, holding out her hand for a handshake. Kyle, MISDRSDLYOGURL," I said, taking her hand in a strong but gentle grip. I crept into the 3rd class cabin, making sure nobody sees me. There was barely anyone in this part of the plane, though. I guess not many people wanted to go to Brazil in the middle of summer. I snook as best as one could when they are in an aisle, on a plane, without looking like they would suddenly whip out a bomb and blow the place to the 7th hell. Of course, I would never, ever, ever, ever do that. But then, 5 seats down, there he is, the guy. He was looking at something with a creepy, wide smile on his face. I wanted to go right up there and punch him in the face, but I knew that would not end well because I am, of course, on a plane. So instead of pimp-smacking the crap out of the guy, I walked to the seat behind him and silently sat down. Getting a glare from him that said, "DONT, touch, my, shiny." And his shiny was Ashley, I presume. She was definitely right there in the guy's hands. His chubby, dirty, disfigured hands that could and would do whatever they wanted to her. I shook the thoughts away, sending shivers down my spine that lingered. I would get her back, no matter what I had to do. I would save her from this nightmare. Ashley. I didn't like the feeling of not being safe. I didn't like the feeling of being at the mercy of a guy who smelled like old corn. I didn't like the way he was looking at me like he would take my clothes off and stare at me like a pedophile. I didn't like the feeling of being scared. No. Terrified. This guy was going to do all the things that were going through my head. I could see it in his eyes. In his smile, the way it showed his crooked teeth at such an uneven angle. The face of evil. "Let's not delay introductions, shall we?" he said, running a finger down my body. "I'm your master and your only master. Call me your greatness or master or whatever as long as it's flattering. You won't get punished," he said, wrapping his fingers around me. My heartbeat increasing, I pushed down the urge to struggle and squirm, out of fear that he would get annoyed and harm me. Oh, what happens when you get punished? He asked himself. Well, let's say, you'll be in a dark place for a very long time. he said, licking his lips. Instantly, my attempt to hide my fear and prevent my struggling erupted out of me, and I twisted and turned, kicked and squirmed to get away from this guy. My breathing uneven and short, he tightened his hold on my body, smiling. "Don't even think about trying to escape," he said. "That place you were before, that person, they were unaware of how much they could use you. Of how much. Better it is to control," he said, putting his face close to me. Suddenly, someone walked past, and he shoved me into his lap between his legs. I didn't see who they were, but I couldn't focus on trying to see if I wanted. I was being pressed in from all sides, crushing my lungs and making it hard to breathe. I managed to take a small breath, but I instantly regretted it. The smell was horrible. I couldn't explain what I experienced, but I'm surprised I didn't throw up. 3 seconds later, he pulls me out slowly and stares down at me like I was a prize he had just won at a fair. "If there's one thing you will remember for the rest of your life, it's that you belong to me," he said, with so much intensity that I had to look away. And what I saw when I did was the image of heaven itself. It was Kyle. He was looking at me like he had just found his soul, like he had just found the one thing he needs to live. And I'm pretty sure I looked the same way, because the guy turned to look at Kyle. But Kyle had his phone out and pretended to be interested in that. "Dang Candy Crush," Kyle muttered, tapping at the screen randomly. The guy sneered and looked back at me. "Don't even think about trying to get his help. He would crush you like the bug you are." He spat, earning a growl from Kyle. But little did he know, that Kyle would be the guy who saved me. Suddenly, something fell over from below the seat, and the guy bent down to fix it, leaving a window for Kyle to show me something on his phone. It said, "Wait until after flight for me to save you, okay?" I nodded. He smiled and nodded back. And I prayed that these next few hours are gonna go fast. 2 hours later, //. "You may now unboard the plane," an overhead voice announced. The guy stopped smelling my hair and put me in his satchel pocket. God, I hope Kyle knows what he's doing. Kyle. I watched this guy like a hawk, watched him get off the plane, watched him walk into a store, watched him get a pretzel from a cart. Then I spotted Ashley in a pocket from his bag. I made sure no one was watching. Then I tapped him on the shoulder and stepped to the other side as he turned around. Then I lightly plucked up Ashley, gathering her in my hand. I darted away. "Hey, get back here," he called. SHM it. "There you go, everyone. Chappie number whatever. Anything else, anyone. Also check out my other books while you wait for the next chapter. So let's go. Allude." Kyle. I clutched Ashley in my hand as I dodged the passing people, nearly running into some tourists. I ran into a store to hide my trail, just in case he ran after me. The store was filled with keychains and name plates and snow globes that were Brazil-themed. But there was no one in here. This tourist trap must be out of style. I opened my hand to make sure she was safe. "Are you all right?" I asked, looking around to see if anyone was listening. She was clutching to my thumb, fearing for her life. She looked relived and terrified at the same time. "That bad man won't get you," I said quietly, holding her to my chest. "I'll make sure nobody gets you." I was so scared. She stuttered. "I know. I got you. You're safe now." Sir." I looked up to see the store clerk looking at me weirdly. "Are you going to buy something?" "Shut up, I'm having a moment with my tiny girlfriend," I shouted back. "Okay," he said, widening his eyes and looking away. "That's right. If you don't like, don't interfere," I said, clutching Ashley to my chest. Then someone else stepped into the store. "Excuse me, are you Kyle?" he asked with a Brazilian accent. He was holding a sign that read, "Kyle and Wren last name." I slipped Ashley into my shirt pocket before I turned to him. "Yes." "Are you my guide?" I asked. "Yes, I saw you run away from a guy. He tried to chase after you, but this woman stopped him, and let me tell you, that woman took him down. She was accompanied by an officer. And the guy got taken care of," he said with a smile. I felt Ashley relax. He took it in a strong grip. "You're welcome, sir, now." "Where might the other fella be?" he asked. As if by mentioning him summoned him, Wren called my name. "Kyle," he shouted, jogging up to me. "Well, if it isn't Aaron Burr, sir." "What?" "Nothing." "Wren," I said, with a welcoming smile. "Kyle, I couldn't find you. Then I saw our guide here and followed him," Wren said. "You are Wren?" the guide asked. "Yes." "Great, now let's get going. We don't want to be late, do we?" he asked, beckoning me and Wren to follow. He showed us his ID and we showed him ours. Then we got into a car. He drove us to a hotel and dropped us off. "So you two relax and settle down. Then early tomorrow we will go and meet the tribe," he said, offering his hand in a handshake. Me and Wren both said our thanks and shook his hand. Then we went up to our room and settled in. By the time Wren came back with our luggage, Ashley was sleeping soundly in my pocket. I softly chuckled and carefully scooped her out. I set her on one of the pillows on the bed and got settled with my clothes. Once I was finished, Wren and I agreed to go to dinner. Then we went to bed. "Say, where's Nina?" I asked. I haven't seen any sign of her ever since we landed. "Though SHMIT, I forgot her." "You what?" I exclaimed, forgetting about the small sleeping Ashley. "Relax, I was just kidding," he said, reaching behind himself to then show a laughing Nina in his hand. "Ah, you should have seen your face," Wren said, holding his fingertip close to Nina. "I told you we'd get a loud reaction," she said, high-oneing Wren's fingertip, I guess. "Yeah, too loud for a certain tiny person over here," I heard Ashley shout angrily. Suddenly, Wren and Nina were blank-faced. "Sorry, Ash, this wasn't meant to involve you," Wren said, looking at Nina. "I think you should give someone else an apology, too," she said, slight venom in her voice. "Sorry, Kyle," Nina and Wren said simultaneously. "Great, now let's get to sleep. We've got a big day tomorrow." "You're telling me," Ashley said, a little sass in her voice. "Sleeping. A sleepless night later //. Ashley." Kyle and Wren packed up all of their stuff. We wouldn't be coming back here. We would be going to meet the tribe, yet Kyle and the gang never explained why. I guess for the fun of an adventure. I sat in Wren's shirt pocket. Since Kyle ran out of shirts with shirt pockets on them, Nina sat in the other one. And on the way to the tribe's location, I listened to the conversations Wren, Kyle, and our guide had in the car. So, why come to Brazil to meet the tribe? Especially one of the tribes that practice ritual. To find information, Kyle said, hesitation in his voice. "It's about what? Don't worry, you can tell me, I won't tell." "He means research," Wren corrected, tapping the pocket I was seated in. Did he mean me? Did they bring Nina and I here do research on us? What kind of research? Just a little research, Kyle said quickly. It's okay. We are almost there, though. Minutes later, //. It's okay, we are here. I felt the movement of Wren opening a car door to get out and grab the baggage, before closing the door with a loud slam. Sorry, he murmured if that was too loud. A low rumble of thunder rolled across the sky, signaling that there was to be some weather later. Then there was walking and lots of it. I just heard the guide say, "Follow me," and then there were no more words. Then after a while they got into another vehicle. A jeep, I suppose. That's what it sounded like. After what felt like an earthquake of elephants stamping across the landscape for 15 minutes, that were stomach-jolting. And the thunder didn't help. I heard the engine rumbles quickly fade to silence. Then Wren got off of the vehicle. I heard the guide speak some foreign language. Then a different voice answered back in the same foreign tongue. I'm not sure what happened next, but I'm pretty sure they discussed why they were here and what business they had here. A thick accented female voice spoke in English. So you come here to watch ritual. She sounded middle-aged and wise. Wren answered, yes. Well, I only tell you one thing. The ritual is for one reason, and a good one too. What's that? For spiritual cleansing and destination. We deny full humans who demand we do it to them. Oh no, miss. We don't want you to do the ritual to us, we want you to help our friend. And who would that be? Well, I felt Wren's fingers reach into the pocket, his large digits clasp around one of my arms. But before he could take me out of the pocket, Kyle stopped him. Could we go see your leader? Our chief, of course, come along, she said skeptically. The fingers retreated from the pocket, and Wren began to move again. I heard Kyle whisper into Wren's ear. I recommend not showing Ashley to random strangers. We, kind of had an incident on the plane, and that's why we're so late. Oh, sorry, Wren whispered back. Then he tapped the pocket I was in and said, "Then tell me when we're all clear." Will do. After a bunch more walking, I listened to the sounds of the rainforest. A flock of birds called to each other in the distance. A type of monkey, its species, which I cannot name, rustled the treetops above. A loud boom of thunder soared across the landscape once more, making me flinch. Then Wren's footsteps transferred from stepping on the leaves of the forest floor to the hardwood floor of a building. A door opened and shut. Chief, these Americans are here to see you. The woman spoke. Ah, so I see. A male, still thick accent responded. They come to speak of the ritual, she said. Okay, Nayli, you may be dismissed. Very well. I heard footsteps brush past Ren, nearly bumping into him. But Ren was fast enough to dodge. Then the door opening and closing again. So, you Americans really like to come to watch a ritual that won't happen. What do you mean? Kyle's voice rang. We do ritual for good reason, not just for the Americans to come and watch. It is sacred. Oh, but sir, we have a good reason, Kyle explained. Suddenly my stomach churned in my gut. Were they going to? Okay, tell me good reason then. Kyle took a deep breath. Okay, Ren, let's show her. Her, the chief murmured. Ren's fingers slipped into the pocket, this time grasping my waist. He encased me in a loose fist as he pulled me from his pocket. He was careful not to drop me, that's for sure. I was cloaked in darkness as his other hand covered me, and I sat in his hand, legs crossed. Ren's hands were shaking, as if he was nervous to show me to a complete stranger. Of course, that doesn't mean I was completely fearless. My gut felt like it was swirling with flame-licked anxiety, spreading throughout my body. My mind echoed one thing. Would he be like that stranger on the plane? Ren uncovered me from his hand. The loudest crack of thunder boomed through the area, and I came face to face with the chief, the chooser of my fate. Welp, there you have it. Get started on the next chapter, so you guys don't yell at me. Okay, have fun, y'all. He was an old man with a messy but short beard. His face showed signs of wisdom, and he wore a shirt and shorts, probably for decency to the new guests. At first, he frowned. Then he narrowed his eyes at Kyle and Ren, then he looked back at me. His expression turned into a kind one, instead of the harsh, judging look before. Ma, ahalha. Oh, so I see you've brought a sacrifice, he said. What? Ren exclaimed, pulling his hand away. Just kidding, the chief joked. I have not pulled that in 20 years, he said, smiling at the both of them. So, you know about a tiny people, Kyle asked awkwardly. Yes, young man, it is one of the reasons we practice ritual, but we have not done so in so long, the chief said, almost like an excited little kid. And that scared me. So you can help, Ren asked. Yes, the whole tribe can help, he said, then he looked at me. I pressed myself against Ren's palm as the chief kneeled down to get a better look at me once more. Not to worry, little one. You are lucky to have come the year of the storm, he said, a kind smile beaming on his face. Then he stood up and called for another tribe member. Sanaji. A small boy, around 12 or 13, scurried into the building. Looking more than a little nervous, he looked scared of Ren and Kyle. Why, yes, Chief, he asked timidly. We have a small guest that needs taking care of, the chief whispered to the boy. At first, the boy looked at Ren and Kyle, confused. Then he spotted me and nodded his head, as if suddenly unafraid and respectful. Okay, he said, smiling at me. Then he turned to the chief once more and whispered, "How do I do that again?" The chief chuckled and put his hand on the boy's back. "You get her comfortable with a hut," he said, patting his back. The boy rounded his lips to an O, then walked towards Wren. He reached for me, then thought better of it, and beckoned the two guys to follow him. He stepped out into the jungle, Wren and Kyle following him. We passed many huts and many people of the tribe who didn't even seem to notice I was there. Finally, we arrived at a hut. It looked kinda different from the others, more well-built. Like it could stand if the wind blew right on it at 100 mph. We stepped into the hut. Est is el lugar para alojars por ahora. Could you repeat that in English? Kyle asked. Oh, sorry. My English is not good, the boy said. It's fine, Wren said, coddling me to his chest. This is place to stay for while, the boy said, gesturing to the hut around them. Gracias, Wren corrected. De nada, the boy said. He turned to leave. But before he did, he turned his head. There will be meeting in 30 minutes. Go to the heart of camp then. Okay, Wren said. Then he watched as the boy left. Kyle turned to Wren. So we're finally here. Yes, we are. Hey, Nina, you can wake up now, Wren said, moving his hand and uncovering my place to nudge at his shirt pocket. I wasn't even asleep. I heard her shout. Guile, okay, geez, Wren said, putting his hand back around me. So now what? Kyle asked, looking around the hut. I think we just get settled in, Wren said, walking over to one of the matted down beds. He sat down gently and set me on the pillow. The place smelled entirely of dust. Done, Wren said, looking at Kyle with a smug expression. Kyle plopped down on the other bed across from Wren's, sending a small gust of dusty wind out from the covers. How many guests have these guys had? Kyle asked, examining the sheets. They're really dusty, like they've never had anyone in here for a long time. Maybe for, say, 20 years, I asked sarcastically. That's probably why, Kyle said, pointing at me, but not looking away from the bed. It was silent for a moment. I realized I had not bathed for 3 days. And the dirt on my skin and the tangled mess of my hair was beginning to bother me. Hey guys, how much time do we have? I asked. They both looked at their watches. 25 minutes, Nina said. Wren looked confused. How did you? Borrowed your watch, Nina said. When did you? It's on the plane. Ow. I'm a borrower. It's what we do. Wren continued to stare at Nina like she had just told him she was a tiny ninja, which she practically was. Kyle sat there watching the scene go on, with an obvious smirk on his face. I waved to get his attention, Kyle. He looked over at me and stepped over, only to kneel down and put his hand behind me. Yay, short stack. I was wait. Did you just call me short stack? I asked, not believing what I just heard. Yes. I will have you know, sir, I am not made up of pancakes, I said half sternly. Oh, pancakes sound super good right now, Wren said, licking his lips a small bit. I rolled my eyes. I was wondering if there's any place I could get cleaned up. Kyle looked thoughtful for a moment, then shrugged. I don't know, maybe we should ask one of the members of the tribe. Sure. Then Kyle proceeded to stand up and walk out the door, a moment later, only to walk back with a confused expression on his face. I tried to ask, but they looked at me like I was speaking gibberish. Ren sighed. That's because they speak Spanish Unini. Not every member is going to know how to speak English. Nina added. I'll go ask, Ren said, standing up. He held Nina in his hand as he stepped outside. He came back with some info. They say it's down by the river behind this hut, but then they said it's unlucky to bathe before a ritual, which I don't get. But I guess it's respectful to not do that, he said. Aw man, I said. I was hopping to wash my hair before we go there. Me too, actually. We should have taken showers in the hotel, Kyle said, pouting. Well, I did. Ren said, like a know-it-all, I guess you two are gonna have to wait. Whoosh, what was that? A chapter you just read so fast that you didn't even pick up the details the author carefully placed in. Well, looks like you have some reading to do. Bye. I sat there for 5 minutes. Hey, Kyle, why don't you just go get a leaf or something and pour the water on me? I don't care if it's cold. Boom. Suddenly, the hut's roof began to leak. Water dripped through as it began to lightly rain outside. Or you could just go outside and stand there for 3 minutes, Kyle said, with a mischievous smirk on his face. Fine, I guess I will, I said. A cold breeze filtered through one of the open windows on the hut. If you're so sure, Kyle said, flicking his pinky finger across my legs, tripping me and causing me to fall onto his fingers. I gripped one of the upper tendons on his fingers and held in as he carried me to the back windowsill. He set me down on the poorly made structure. Do you want me to leave you here or? He asked, probably unsure of watching me shower. I dunno. Turn around, I said, circling the air with my pointer finger. And so he did. I watched and made sure he did a full 180. I watched those strong shoulders tense and relax as he leaned against the wall the window was built on. His arm muscles crossed like a pretzel. Even for an almost expired teenager, he was pretty lean and keen with his body. I felt myself blush. What was I thinking? Was I impressed by his body? I shook my head. Now is not the time, Ashley. You're on a mission to get home, apparently. That's why they brought you here. I stripped down to my bra and panties and stood under a nearby leaf that was dripping a steady stream of rainwater. I rinsed my hair and scrubbed. Then I requested he go and fetch my DIY clothes. While he was gone, an insect began crawling towards me, a big insect. I wasn't sure what it was. I squinted my eyes to see it better. It looked like a spider. Not only that, it was a tarantula. As if it seemed to know when I found out, it accelerated its pace and got ready to pounce. I screamed and tried to run, but I tripped on a splinter. A strong pang of pain pulsed through my leg. Its eyes gleaming with hunger and malice, it pounced on me. Its furry legs ran up and down my exposed body. It deeply chittered with satisfaction and held me down with its abdomen. Suddenly, there was a blur of color, and the colossal spider was off of me. In its place stood an even bigger being. A bird. It was unlike any other bird I had ever seen. It didn't seem to belong in the jungle. It looked as big as an eagle and had the beak as colorful as a puffin's. It was a rich red color, like a parrot, but at the feathers' tips was a shimmering golden shine, and the feathers on its head and tail were transparent so that they almost looked like tiny rubies. It clutched the spider in its fantastic talon, holding it down as it frantically squirmed. Heth, Karma's abai. It seemed like it winked at me. Ay, shoo. Kyle's big hands came in and swiped at the graceful bird. Get outta here, he said harshly. Once he was sure he ridded the bird, he covered his eyes with his hand. Are you okay? He asked, setting down my clothes by my small form. Why, yeah, I said, grabbing my clothes and clutching them to my chest. I clothed myself and gave Kyle the good-to-go sign. What happened? Nina asked, her tail wrapped around Wren's middle finger. I'm sure Ashley got attacked by a bird, Kyle assumed. No, the bird saved me, I said, almost like a prophecy line told 100 times. Well, it didn't look like any bird I've ever seen, Wren admitted. Hello. We all turned our heads to the door, where a new member of the tribe was peeking in. Bay ready in you own minute. Okay, Kyle said, waving to the tribe member. They smiled awkwardly and nodded, slinking away. Okay, so 1 minute, where should we head? Wren asked. Probably where everyone else is going, I said, shrugging. Maybe we should start going, Kyle said, heading for the door. I mean, sure, if we don't need anything, Wren said, standing up. What would we need for a ceremony? Kyle asked. I know this doesn't answer the question, but I'm hungry. Let's go already, Nina said jokingly. Okay, fine, Kyle said. I clung to Kyle's thumb as he walked out into the light once more. He held the door for Wren, who walked right out without saying anything. You're welcome, Kyle spat. Huh. I rolled my eyes. How does Nina deal with him? I have Kyle a look, and he returned the same expression. We followed everyone to a clearing where the chief stood in the middle. He stood on a pedestal with a woman at his side, the one who sassily greeted us when we arrived. He was saying something in Spanish. Me gustaría presentar a nuestros high-speeds de otro mundo, dignos americanos. He gestured to us. Suddenly, everyone turned to look at us. Adults and children alike stared at me and Nina. Bonjour, Nina said, waving to the people. There were murmurs in the crowd of people. The kids who were old enough to speak looked at us weirdly. Some of the older people looked at us with wide eyes, most of them smiling nicely. The chief spoke again, and everyone's heads turned to him. Han venido, con una razón digna para practicar el ritual. Como probablemente puedes decir. They laughed. Kyle leaned against Wren, whispering in his ear, Wren, you speak Spanish right. Can you tell what they're saying? Oh, yeah. He introduced us and then he made a joke. What was the joke? He said we're different, as you can probs see. And then he gestured to Nina and I. The chief said more things in Spanish. Then he said to Kyle and Wren, "Let the ceremony begin." Wowzers. Thanks so much for sticking with me through this book. It's been fun, guys.